Hello! Hello. It is Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday. There we go. I don't know how loud I need this. Quiet? I don't know. But there we go. Hello. We got some background music going. Cause we're gonna be doing a lot of reading today. Cause today is fanfiction reading. That's loud in my ear. Hold on. Turn that down just a smidge for me. All right. I didn't do a lot of testing on this. I just kind of went. Hello, Blue. Hello, Dustin. Hello. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day. Yeah, I know. Crazy. It's noon already. Insane, but no worries, Blue. You lurk away. You work on your writing. I'll holler if I need you. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. And hello, Dustin. Hello. All right. So today we are reading a fanfiction I wrote called Tale of the Garden Stone. And it involves Felix's stray kids and an OC I created. Ignore the fact that this OC vaguely looks like me. I didn't even think about it when writing it. It just kind of happened. So just ignore that, okay? Her personality is not very much like me, I'll give you that much. So this was from the follower goal that we hit a while back after reaching 500 followers. So it's finally done. And we get to read it now, and I am so excited. So as a fair warning, whenever we do fanfiction reading, I will focus on the reading, and I probably won't be super heavy on looking at chat until either between the scenes or between the chapters. So that is a very fair warning. So, because again, I'll be focused on the reading. So, but yeah, we got just under 22,000 words. It's 21,800 something, I think, words. So, and it's 12 chapters. I'll tell you that much. It's 12 chapters. So, I say, and here is the poster cover, whatever it is, that I have done. So I'm using my mouse for the first time for fanfiction reading. So if it goes zoom on the scroll, that is the mouse wheel. I'm not used to it. So, all right. Whee! And here is a description. A young man gifted with the power of light glides through life with no worries. Life was grand for him until strange men arrived in their town. Through the strange happenings, he runs into a woman with the power to control plants. As the two become friends, the men are desperately looking for the fabled Garden Stone. The two get roped into trying to stop the men's plans from being fulfilled. So let's get started. Chapter 1, Chance Encounter. Oh shit, there we go. Golden light shimmered through the land. Autumn leaves crisply danced in the wind. Various sounds of laughter echoed through the area. One man's laughter stood out from the rest. The voice came from one of a shorter height with blonde hair who was smiling brightly. Children around him laughed and played as the man conjured rays of light from his hands. "Felix, shine the light on the trees again!" one of the children cheered. "No, shoot it at the fountain," a young girl argued. The blonde man, Felix, laughed with the kids. "How about this?" He smiled, freckles highlighting his cheeks. He gathered a mass array of light and covered the entire area in a golden glow. The kids stared in awe as Felix easily wielded his powers of light. Smiles grew on everyone's faces as they watched the light bounce off the orange and red leaves with the sun setting in the background. "All right, kids, let's head back so your parents can pick you up." Several groans and complaints sounded off while Felix chuckled. The children never wanted to leave, but they needed to go back to their families. Felix led the children back to the small building on the outskirts of town. In a few short moments, the parents arrived to pick up their respective child or children. As the last child left with their mother, he released a sigh of relief. As if on cue, his phone rang with a familiar ringtone. "Hey, John! Kids just left. I'll be there as soon as I can," Felix said as soon as he answered his phone. "You betta! We already ordered for you. Get here before it gets cold," Chen replied with an upbeat voice. "Will do," Felix responded as he wrote down notes in a chart on his desk. "I just gotta get the paperwork started and I'll be right there." He quickly ended the phone call and returned to writing notes. Feeling satisfied, he closed the book and locked up the room in building. He quickly walked down the street and into a restaurant. "Felix!" Felix looked to his right and found Chan and a few other friends sat at a big table. Smiling, he found a seat next to Chan. "Sorry I'm late. Busy with the kiddos." "No biggie. Food should be here in a bit." Did you give the kids a light show again?" Chan asked with a small chuckle. "They go crazy over the light," Felix replied with a small smile. "Children are so simple sometimes. You have the perfect powers to keep kids entertained," another guy at the table spoke up. "While yours tends to scare them away, Mino," Chan shot back jokingly. Dark aura seeped out of Mino for a brief moment before Felix interjected. "They're not scared, you just use them a bit aggressively for their liking." "They also like your powers better anyway, Mr. Sunshine," Mino replied. "Okay, let's not argue and let's eat." Chan quickly stopped the argument as soon as the two waitresses arrived with everyone's food. Felix watched carefully as everyone started digging into the dishes they ordered. He noticed the dish in front of him was not exactly what he wanted, but he felt grateful for the food. Several hours flew by as the group of guys ate and chatted to their heart's content. Felix decided to call it a night and left the restaurant quietly, leaving most of his friends behind. As he walked into the cool night, he released a sigh. He enjoyed his friends, he enjoyed his job, he enjoyed life, but sometimes it felt overwhelming. A small bump snapped him out of his thoughts. The assailant was a taller man with a dark hoodie with some kind of logo on the back. Strange. He had never seen that around town before. Hopefully they meant no harm. The next day, Felix began his typical routine. Shower, dressed, and breakfast eaten before he heads to the daycare. On his normal walk, he noticed more guys with the strange hoodies. The logo was a purple deer with its antlers taking up most of the design. Felix minded his own business until one of those men walked up to him. "Excuse me, sir. Do you happen to know of a garden around here?" Felix wore a puzzled expression. "There's plenty of gardens around here. Closest one is at a park down the road," he replied as he pointed to the south. The man bowed and walked in the direction Felix pointed to. Odd. A few more men with similar hoodies met up with the one who talked to Felix and appeared to be using some kind of wind power. Catching a weird compass-looking device, Felix turned back to the direction of the daycare. He immediately unlocked the building and got to work. Same routine as normal. Open the building, do the paperwork, and wait for the children to arrive. His entire day revolved around the tending to the needs of others. Perfectly normal. While he was tending to the kids at lunchtime, a collection of loud thuds echoed from outside the building. The children started panicking while Felix immediately moved to protect them. Several minutes of those noises persisted while he gathered the older kids. "Stay with them. Do not move until I come back," Felix carefully instructed before heading towards the source of the noise. Peeking out the window, he noticed the source of the ruckus came from a few men with the deer hoodies. Impulsively, he ran out there and quickly gathered a thick string of light and whipped everyone around to knock them onto the ground. As he knocked the guys down, he noticed a faint green shine that fell out of one of their pockets. "If you're gonna fight, do it away from here," Felix shouted at the men. He gathered more light energy to protect himself and the daycare. The men looked in horror at the light and scrambled to leave the immediate area. Releasing the breath he did not know he held, he dematerialized the light and scanned the area. The ground showed evidence of a scuffle, but everyone involved appeared to wear the deer hoodies. He walked over the flash of green on the ground and picked it up. The chain held a large emerald jewel that sparkled in the sunlight. Gold plating bordered the jewel in place, making it look like it was worth millions. Felix looked carefully at the jewel and felt drawn to it. Looking around once more and seeing no other hooligans around, he pocketed the jewel and walked back to the daycare and back to the kids. The crazy guys are gone. Nothing to worry about, Felix told the children while wearing a bright smile. Cheers erupted, and he did his best to calm the commotion. After calming the children, he resumed the normal activities. The day carried on like a normal day. Felix barred the children from going outside in case there were more dangerous guys, but he found a way to keep them occupied without outdoor activities. Because of the events outside, he contacted all the parents to pick up their children an hour earlier if possible. Once the last child was picked up, he closed the door and moved to sit at his desk. He pulled out the jewel from his pocket to take a closer look at it. He had never seen a jewel that sparkled, even in the setting sun. The thugs in the deer hoodies. Were they fighting over the jewel? Humming to himself, Felix put the jewel down on the desk and started his paperwork for the day. After filling out the paperwork, he pulled out his phone and sent a quick text message to a few of his friends, asking if they wanted to hang out. From Chan. Sorry, Felix. Really busy at work tonight. Maybe later? From Mino. Can't tonight. Let's try again tomorrow. Felix released a sigh at all the various messages of rejection. He expected as such, but it did not hurt any less. After packing up everything, including pocketing the jewel, he left the daycare for the night. Not wanting to go home, he walked through the busy part of town. Plenty of shops and vendors occupied the main square. Felix looked through all the shops, but nothing stood out. He did not need them to, until he walked by a small flower shop. One flower caught his attention. He leaned forward to look closer at the flower until... Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry! Felix opened his eyes and was met by a blur of orange and green. He observed the person carefully and smiled to calm the other's nerves. It's all right. Are you hurt anywhere? He asked gently and getting a closer look at them. The other was a young woman with long orange curly hair pulled back haphazardly in a half-up, half-down style, and her bright green eyes matched her green t-shirt hoodie. She smiled back in relief. I'm not hurt. I wasn't watching where I was going. I'm so sorry again. She quickly apologized. Her attention diverted to the flower shop and lit up upon seeing the wide assortment. Were you looking at flowers for your girlfriend? And I interrupted it? Oh no, what am I going to do? Whoa, whoa, whoa there! Felix placed a gentle hand on the woman's shoulder. First of all, you didn't interrupt anything. And second of all, I don't have a girlfriend. Boyfriend then? No boyfriend either. The woman breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. Not thank goodness. You don't have a partner, although you're too good looking not to be single. Oh, what am I saying? I'm glad I didn't interrupt anything. If you were thinking about getting flowers, I would suggest these red lilies, since I think roses can be a little overrated. Felix let out a hearty laugh. I appreciate the offer, but you should probably slow down a bit. After a few moments of silence, the woman nodded and smiled. She held out her hand quickly. Where are my manners? I'm Bung Ayan. Felix smiled and shook her hand. I'm Lee Felix. After a glance at the faint glow in his pocket, Ayan looked up and smiled. Now that we have introductions out of the way, let me treat you for running into you. It's the least I can do, and I'm sorry for assuming your relationship status. Felix chuckled at her rambling. He agreed and followed along with her idea. She started walking down the main pathway and toward a small hole-in-the-wall cafe. This is already an interesting turn, Felix thought to himself as Ayan walked into the cafe. Hello, Johnny. Hello, hello. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day, and thank you for leaving the lurk. I see you got your Twitch account back. Hopefully things are well with that. Alright, Chapter 2. Oh, shit. There we go. Chapter 2, Emerald. Let me grab a drink. Felix stared at the ceiling of his bedroom. Thinking back on it, the day prior was more eventful than he could have ever imagined. Weird guys in deer hoodies, sparkling emerald jewels, and an over-eccentric lady who treated him to dinner while his friends rejected him. What was her name? Ayan? Felix thought out loud. He subconsciously pulled out the emerald jewel he picked from the men in the deer hoodies. It held a faint glow of a soft green. Humming to himself, he set it on his nightstand and climbed out of bed. Saturday was his day off, so he was away from the kids for a couple of days. He showered and changed into baggy jeans, a white t-shirt, and an oversized jean jacket to round out the look. After grabbing a black bucket hat and putting it on, he also grabbed the jewel and headed out for the day. He wanted to see if anyone can tell him about the strange jewel. The cool and crisp air surrounded Felix as soon as he walked out the door. First logical place to head was the local jeweler. Hopefully they can tell him about the emerald. The walk to the jewelry store appeared mindless. With the building in sight, Felix prepared himself to attempt to ask the right questions. He crossed the street and noticed the jewel started to glow in his pocket. Before pulling it out, a familiar voice called out to him. "Hi, Felix!" Felix turned to his right and saw a familiar face. Ayan walked up to him wearing an oversized green and black flannel shirt, completely open with black tank top tucked into a dark blue jean shorts. Her hair was in the same haphazard half up, half down as the night before. Felix took mental notes of the outfit and looked her in the eyes to greet her back. "Ayan, what brings you here?" "Just wandering around with nothing better to do," Ayan smiled. She quickly glanced at the glowing spot on Felix's pocket and turned back to him. "Fancy running into you here. What are you up to? Just chilling? Going on a secret mission? Going on a date?" "Let's back up to that secret mission one," Felix chuckled as he subconsciously stuck his hand in his pocket to fiddle with the chain the jewel was on. "Ooh, maybe I can help with that. I'm good at secret missions." Ayan cheered as she stepped closer to Felix. It was then Felix realized how close in height she was to him, as they were almost eye level when she stepped closer. Trying to compose himself, he stepped back slightly and looked around carefully. "Do you happen to know anything about jewelry?" he cautiously asked. Ayan let out a dramatic gasp. "You think because I'm a woman I know about jewelry? Shame, Felix." "What? No, I didn't mean it like that. Just kidding!" Ayan smiled as she gently punched his bicep. "I'm not an expert, but I know a thing or three about jewelry." Felix nodded as he pulled out the emerald jewel out of his pocket. "I found this emerald on the ground after a bunch of weird guys were fighting." Ayan looked carefully at the emerald shining in the sunlight. The small shift in her eyes went unnoticed. "Yep, it's an emerald, all right. You said it was on the ground?" Yeah, these guys were wearing weird hoodies with deer on them," Felix explained. The phrase made Ayan perk up. "I'm not sure what this is. Any ideas?" "Deer hoodies?" Ayan thought out loud. "Sounds like the Shadow Tribe is here." "Shadow Tribe?" Felix asked. "Weren't they a myth started by guys from across the country?" "That's what I thought too until I ran into them a week ago." "So they're here too?" Ayan replied. She looked carefully at the emerald. "Is this... Do you know what this is?" Ayan looked up and met Felix's eyes. She could sense the softness and curiosity. "Maybe. I have a hunch, but I'm not sure. We can find somebody who can give us a definite answer," she answered with a nod. Felix nodded in return. "I was headed over to the jeweler across the way. Want to come with me?" With one last look at the jewel, Ayan smiled and nodded. "Lead the way, Felix." After Felix pocketed the jewel, the two walked the short distance to the jeweler. Upon walking into the doors, Ayan noticed a wilted flower by the door and quickly used her powers to revitalize it. Felix walked up to the jeweler behind the counter. "Hello, sir. What can I do for you?" the elderly man asked with a smile. Felix pulled out the emerald out of his pocket. "We were wanting to know if you knew anything about the stone," he asked politely. Ayan walking up beside him and confidently nodded to affirm the statement. The elderly man looked at the jewel with wide eyes. "Where did you find this?" "A group of guys dropped it and I picked it up," Felix answered. "It feels important." "It's because it is." I believe this is the garden stone, the man said as he carefully held the jewel. Felix's eyes widened while Ayan wore a mildly shocked expression. Isn't the garden stone a myth? Felix asked. It came from a story passed down for generations, the man said, carefully placing the stone on the counter and reaching behind him to grab a book. He opened up to a specific page and read from it. An emerald gem that shines with the green of the spring flower fields. The garden stone wields the power to rejuvenate life itself. If you take the stone to sacred locations, the one who holds it will have one wish granted. A wish? Felix whispered. Sounds like fun! Where are the sacred locations? Ayan asked with a smile. Why don't you two take the book with you? The man nodded politely, pushing the book towards Ayan. I'm too old for that kind of adventure. Thank you so much, sir, Ayan smiled, taking the book and motioned for Felix to take the stone. Let's go check it out! Whoa there, Ayan. What about everyone else that needs me here? Felix attempted to argue. What about them? We can get a wish granted, so let's go! Ayan shrugged and attempted to walk away. Ayan! Felix took a deep breath. If you want to go on this adventure, be my guest, but I've got people that need me. Are those the same people that ditched you last night? Tears started to well up in Felix's eyes. Refusing to look Ayan in the eyes, he clenched his fist to will away said tears. I know I said a lot of things at the cafe last night, but that's a little sensitive. Ayan looked Felix in the eyes. Her expression shifted into several contemplative looks before exhaling. She stepped closer to him and patted his arm. I apologize. How about we go see your friends, and then we'll go? Hello, Sylvia. Hello. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day, and thank you for leaving the lurk. Alright. Felix and Ayan walked into a small dojo. In the window, the people could be seen practicing combat while using their powers. Ayan stared in awe while Felix led her inside. The dojo was clad in various banners and posters with various positive sayings. Felix walked into the doorway and met up with a few of his friends. Chan noticed him walk through the door and stopped what he was doing after a gust of air left his arm. Hey, Felix! Hey, Chan. You guys busy? Felix asked. Not terribly. Why? You want to train a bit? Chan replied, stopping a wild fireball attack from across the room. Felix chuckled nervously, watching his friends train. Not really. I just wanted to tell you I'll be gone for a bit. Where are you going? The guy who threw the fireball, Ji-sung, walked up to the two and asked with bright eyes. Hesitant eyes darted around and landed on the window by the door. Felix looked at Ayan with intention of finding the right words. He locked eyes with her, causing her to wave excitedly with a wide smile. Chan and Ji-sung's eyes drifted to the waving girl and looked back at Felix with identical smirks. When were you going to tell us you got a girlfriend? Chan slyly asked. What? No, it's not like that. I literally met her yesterday, Felix frantically replied. We're just going to find out more about this garden stone. The shining green of the emerald flashed briefly as Felix showed his friends the jewel. Ji-sung stared in awe while Chan looked perplexed. I can help you dig into it if you want. Hyunjin works at the library. We can ask him, Chan said. Maybe later, Felix nervously replied. I just wanted to let you know to not need me for a few days while we figure this out. Chan and Ji-sung appeared shocked at the statement. Before they could say anything more, Felix turned on his heels and walked out, leaving small light particles around him. Ayan smiled and turned as well, dropping a small purple hyacinth. Ready to go? She asked Felix with a smile, to which Felix answered with a curt nod. Great! I found a good starting point. There's a secret passage somewhere underneath the town. Maybe in the subway? Felix nodded while leading the way to the nearest underground stairway. The two walked into a one-sided conversation with Ayan doing most of the talking. After several minutes, Ayan brought up a topic that perked Felix up. So, what kind of powers do you have? Ayan asked with a thread of whimsy in her voice. I can create light, Felix answered, while emitting sparkling glimmers of light from his right hand. Ayan watched with bright eyes. Whoa, that's so cool! I've never seen powers like that before. Oh, where are my manners? I can control plants! Watch this! She strung her excited words together as she took a step back and created a bustling cluster of vines with several marigolds sprouting from the greenery. This time, Felix's eyes lit up with astonishment watching the other's powers demonstration. This is cool, Felix complimented as he sat closer to Ayan. With a confident nod, Ayan smiled and tugged on his sleeve. We'll make a great team, Felix. Let's not waste any more time and find out what we can about this garden stone. Felix nodded, feeling eased by her enthusiasm. The two ventured down into the subway and started looking for the potential signs leading them to find out more about the emerald. 15 minutes of wandering aimlessly in the subway later, Felix and Ayan released deep sighs. Neither had luck figuring out where to go, until the emerald started glowing and levitating. The two watched in awe as it pointed towards a crack in the secluded wall. Looks like a secret pathway, Felix noted. Shall we check it out? Ayan nodded in excitement and answered with glee. Let's do it! Chapter 3, Team Up. Drip, drop, drip, drop. Ambient sounds of water plopping onto the ground echoed through the dark tunnel. One small source of light emanated from the underground pathway. A green glow led Felix and Ayan through the path in an attempt to find whatever they needed. Any idea on this sacred location? Felix asked, carefully holding the emerald. Ayan shook her head and answered, all it says it's at the end of the underground tunnel. This is the best chance. Felix replied with a skeptical look, with no words. The two carried on with their adventure until the sound of boulders falling snapped them out of their thoughts. They quickly ran towards the sound and discovered light seeping through the cracks of a blast mark towards the top of the rubble. Someone else is here, Felix thought out loud. Could be those Shadow Tribe guys? Let's check it out! Ayan quietly cheered before quickly walking through the rubble to the much more open pathway. Ignoring the fact that the hallway was more uniform than the one they traveled through thus far, they followed the sound of footsteps quickly running away. They caught up to the group within a short few minutes. Ayan quickly whipped a long, thick vine to shove the men in hoodies out of the way. 3 men in the hoodies turned around and prepared to fight. Ayan kept them at bay with her vines, while Felix conjured his light to prevent the 3 from attacking. Sparkling lights coated the vines, which added to the attacks. Who are you two? One of the men wearing hoodies asked. Just 2 friends who want to know about the garden stone. Ayan smiled as she pinned the 3 to the walls with her vines. Felix appeared impressed by the display of Ayan's powers. He pulled out the emerald and watched it try to float down the pathway. The golden sparkles trailed through the path and led them to an empty room. In the center of the room stood a large basin filled with a dark green liquid surrounded by soft gold lighting. Ayan opened the book and quickly read a passage. Looks like we need to dip the stone in the liquid to charge its powers. Then we can move on to the next sacred location. Felix nodded as he held the stone by the chain and dipped it into the liquid. A golden light illuminated the chamber, making Felix and Ayan squint at the brightness. Several seconds passed and the brightness dissipated. Felix pulled the emerald out of the liquid and examined the jewel. It appeared brighter than a few moments ago. It seemed to work, he thought out loud. There's 4 more to go. Ayan spoke with a small pep in her voice, shaking small bits of liquid off her hand. 3 more like this, and the bigger chamber awaits. That's where the wish will be made. Felix nodded in reply. He looked around and noticed the guys in deer hoodies sprawled out in the hallway. We should probably head out before they wake up. Don't want them after us on the way to the next one. Let's get going then, Ayan smiled brightly while grabbing Felix's hand that was not holding the emerald and quickly ran out the way they came in. Felix's eyebrows scrunched inward for a split second before relaxing and letting Ayan lead the way. Strong afternoon sun rays coated the town as Felix and Ayan returned above ground. Ayan squinted her eyes immediately, whereas Felix only shaded his eyes with his hand. After a quick once-over of the immediate area, Ayan started walking towards the town. "Let's grab a snack on the way to the next one," she smiled brightly. "Wait a second! Why are you in such a rush?" Felix called out, almost chuckling. Ayan pondered on her thoughts for a brief moment before replying, I just want to stay on this adventure." "Think about it for a second," Felix began his reply as he jogged up to Ayan. "If we rush this adventure, we won't have quality time together. Wouldn't the quality time of the adventure be more satisfying than to rush and have no memories?" Ayan turned to stare at him. Her bright green eyes had a curious look to them. "You sounded so professional there. When did you learn to talk so calmly?" Felix shrugged and answered, "It's how I talk to the kids at the daycare. Maybe something with that?" Green eyes shifted into a look of sorrow, a look that almost went unnoticed. A quick smile hid the shift of the eyes. "You must love the kiddos, huh?" she muttered to herself. "Oh, there's a convenience store right there! Let's go grab some snacks." Felix followed her cautiously into the store. Ayan perused the shelves without a care while Felix watched her carefully. The bubbly attitude with the shift in her eyes felt off. But why? "Hey, Felix." Felix turned around and found Mino hanging out by the table eating a hot bowl of ramen. "What's up, Hyung? Finished up work at the dojo?" "Just stopped by to get some food," Mino answered while lifting up his chopsticks to show the noodles. "You here to do the same?" Felix nodded as his and Mino's gazes drifted to Ayan. Her eyes darted the various shelves in hopes to find herself something to munch on. She wanted a snack before he went to the next spot. "Next spot? Does she plan on whisking you away for good?" Mino chuckled, but toned completely serious. Before Felix had a chance to answer, Mino continued speaking his thoughts. "Can I tag along for your next spot? I've got nothing to do for the rest of the day." "Sounds good to me. We haven't teamed up in a while." Felix smiled at the offer. "What you talking about?" Ayan popped in next to them and asked. "Mino's gonna come with us to look for the next sacred location. He's a competent fighter, so don't worry about whether or not he can keep up," Felix answered with a smile. Ayan's smile dropped a small amount before lifting it back up. "Sure, no worries. Let's eat our food and head out." Mino watched Felix's expression carefully before finishing his ramen and following them through the store. "I'm so tired, you know." "Me too, Mingy, but we have to keep looking." The two men walked into the convenience store with heavy sighs and taking down the hoods to their matching black hoodies. They scoped the store for snacks before moving on. "Any idea on the next location?" Mingy asked as he picked up a bag of chips. Yuno hummed as a quick reply. "Hungjin said it was to the north above ground, right? Wasn't there a forest to the north? A haunted one that said to weaken people's powers?" Mingy followed up, handing Yuno a container of ramen. "It's just a myth." "If it is true, we've got charms and they should help us find the stone," Yuno chuckled. A few seconds later, a purple glow from Yuno's pocket began to light. Yuno and Mingy looked at each other for a brief moment before looking all over the store. Yuno pulled out the purple jeweled necklace and pointed to a trio of similar height walking out of the store. Two men, one of dark hair, one of light, and one woman with long orange curly hair. With one confirming nod to another, Mingy and Yuno followed the trio out the store. The sun's rays cooled down as Felix, Mino, and Ayan walked through the forest path. Green light guided them through the secluded path. Mino watched curiously as Felix and Ayan casually engaged in conversation. The two smiled and laughed like they had been friends for years. Picking up the pace, Mino caught up with Felix and Ayan. "So, where did you two meet anyway? You seemed close." "We bumped into each other last night and just kinda clicked," Felix answered while Ayan nodded. "Last night, huh?" Mino thought out loud to himself. "What kind of powers do you have?" "I can control plant life. Goes well with Felix's light powers, huh?" Ayan smiled as she spawned a small yellow rose in her hand. "Sure, but his powers complement anyone's powers," Mino debated. Ayan briefly pouted before switching to a cheerful look once more. "Light does go with about anything, but I think it can go with plants because plants need light to grow." Mino quickly wielded a small shadow ball and expertly waved it around. Light can also go with shadow. We fought together several times, and we gelled together pretty well. What have you done? Make your plants sparkly? Felix chuckled while Ayan pouted again. What's wrong with sparkly plants? Ayan quietly protested. Looks like the stone's pointing toward the abandoned mansion, Felix said while motioning towards the glowing stone in his hand. A sacred location must be there. Ayan smiled brightly as she followed Felix further down the path. Mino matched his pace with Ayan and nudged her arm. You trying to replace us? He asked quietly, hoping to be out of earshot of Felix. With a quick once-over, Ayan's expression changed from happy-go-lucky to cold. I'm only replacing those that abandon him. Mino's expression quickly scrunched into a look of confusion. He replays the conversation from moments ago and realizes what she meant. We didn't abandon anybody. What's your game, Missy? Choosing silence as an answer, Ayan coldly turned away from Mino and quickly caught up with Felix. The sudden shift in demeanor did not go unnoticed by Mino. Chapter 4. Abandoned. Underneath the shadows of the golden tree leaves laid a large house covered in dirt, moss, and overgrown trees. The green glow of the stone led the three to the old house. Ayan walked to the left side, and Mino looked upward to the right. Walking up the front door, Felix examined the immediate area. He checked the door. Locked. He looked at the windows. Also locked. The front door opened, revealing a slightly disheveled Mino. Felix stared blankly as Ayan walked up to him and gave Mino the same stare. With a shrug, Mino calmly said, Second floor window is open. Felix and Ayan nodded simultaneously before following Mino inside. The foyer was a spacious room coated with dust and cobwebs. To the right of the room sat several pots holding dead plants. Ayan walked by the plants and waved her hand over them. A sheer light coated the withered plants as they began growing to full life once more. She turned to catch up to Felix and Mino, who were facing the other side of the room. Anything interesting? She asked cheerfully. Nothing yet. Should we do the classic split up and search his place separately? Felix asked with a soft chuckle. What are we looking for exactly? Mino asked. Ayan pulled out the book, turned to a particular page, and showed Mino. This is what we're looking for. It's a golden basin filled with magic liquid. Looks like a glorified bird bath, Mino deadpanned. Great! You know what it looks like now, Ayan smiled as she slammed the book shut. If one of us finds it, we should have a code word to alert the others. How about soup? Felix suggested, earning 2 strange stares. It's 1 syllable, easy to rattle off, and I'm still kinda hungry. Ayan and Mino nodded in agreement before the group separated. Mino headed to the basement, Ayan ran upstairs, and Felix stayed on the ground floor. From the foyer, he walked to the leftmost hall into the kitchen. He illuminated the dim room with his own light in hopes to find the basin. Greenery covered the dust-coated silver appliances across the kitchen. Pots and pans were scattered all around haphazardly. Felix subconsciously ran his hands on the edge of the island as he walked through the room. Getting to the edge of the counter, he noticed a small glare from a kitchen knife. Upon a quick glance, he noticed the handle had no dust, but the blade did. Strange. A short chime echoed through the kitchen, catching Felix off guard. His senses spiked as he immediately turned around and defended a one-man ambush. Felix quickly projected a light shield to guard against the strike from a taller male in a dark hoodie. You here for the garden stone? The man asked as he continued the attacks. Specks of light scattered as Felix defended the onslaught. That means you're here for it too, he muttered as he hit a spin kick to the man. A faint purple glow emanated from the man's pocket. Felix's expression scrunched in confusion before noticing the green glow from his own. The man noticed it and reached for it. So you do have it. Felix batted away the man's arm with a trail of light. As the man was pushed away, Felix caught a glance at a small name tag on the hoodie. You know. Why do you want the garden stone? Felix asked, getting into a defensive stance. Why else? So our boss can make a wish, the man, answered. We need that stone to spread our power. That moment, Felix noticed the purple patterns on the black hoodie sleeve. Shadow Tribe, Felix mumbled out loud. You got it, smirked before whipping up water attack coated in a small shroud of darkness. Relying on quick reflexes, Felix dodged the water, but felt a strange weight to the darkness. The two exchanged blows for several minutes, light and dark water clashing, making a mess of the dusty kitchen. After bodies were thrown towards the empty fridge, a noise broke Felix out of his concentration. Felix reacted to Ayan's voice by grabbing Yuno's arm, delivering a hard-hitting arm drag, and running back to the foyer where the stairs were. Hearing heavy footsteps behind him, he picked up speed and ran upstairs. Freezing in place, he caught sight of a purple ice coating a doorway. Firing a beam of light, Felix broke the ice before advancing towards the room. Looking in the room, he saw a frazzled Ayan with giant vines surrounding her. Behind the vines stood a basin glowing a faint gold. Before he could make a move toward Ayan, a sharp spear of ice pierced into his right arm. Mingi has dark ice powers! Be careful! Ayan called out before using her vines to help protect Felix. More dark ice frosted the area as Felix prepared to defend himself. A concentrated beam of dark energy pierced through the frost. Thanks, Mino, Felix called as Mino ran up to him. Felix and Mino charged their powers for a combined attack. Light and dark meshing together for a big energy bomb. A wave of energy encased the abandoned mansion. Sounds of footsteps running away could be heard among the area. The tension died down after the light and dark dissipated. The two men turned toward Ayan and gave a soft nod. Ayan sighed in relief. I'm glad you two are okay. The two walked into the room Ayan kept herself in. We can handle ourselves, Mino calmly replied. Felix walked up to the basin and pulled out the emerald from his pocket. The emerald glowed before being dunked into the green liquid. Golden light blinded the three as the stone appeared to gain some kind of power. 2 more to go! Ayan cheered as the vine started pulling back. Whoa there! We should probably stop for now. We're a little beat up, don't you think? Felix replied with a kind smile. But I can... Ayan shook her head, refusing to reply. She walked through the two and headed back downstairs. Mino and Felix shot one another a confused look before following her out the mansion. Musky air coated the main room. Messy shelves peeked through the dim lighting as dust floated in the air. Deer paintings hung on the wall with cobwebs strung between them. One painting stood out among the rest. Welcome back, Mingi. Yuno and Mingi simultaneously gulped out of nervousness as their leader greeted them. Hongjun, we can explain! Hongjun stepped closer, peering his eyes up at Yuno. Explain what? That you couldn't retrieve the garden stone? The ones who have it are pretty strong, Mingi spoke up. The girl was extremely strong. Those vines hurt. The guy with light powers was a skilled fighter. He was the one who had the actual stone, Yuno added. But when he and the other guy teamed up, they were extremely powerful, Mingi said. We need to be careful if we're going to see them again. Hongjun listened carefully to the conversation. He walked over to a nearby bookshelf and pulled out a large dark green book. Flipping the pages, he sought after one in particular. Underground, abandoned home, hidden cave, atop a tall tower. Once the stone touches the liquid, it'll be ready to take to the temple. We've seen them at the subway and that mansion, so that leaves a hidden cave and a tall tower. Wooyoung and Yosung have the lead on the tower, so I'll leave you two to the cave. How are we going to find it? Yuno asked in a blind panic. A random cave could be anywhere, Mingi joined in the panic. Hongjun released a hefty sigh and grabbed a pen and paper. After scribbling what looked like an address, he handed the paper to Yuno. Go here. You'll find everything you need to track down the sacred locations. Mino and Mingi exchanged wary looks before leaving Hongjun's sight for the evening. I will get my wish. Just you wait, Hongjun muttered to himself as he looked at the biggest portrait next to the bookshelf. Arriving back in town, Felix and Mino decided to stop by the dojo. Without a single word, the two began sparring as if it was the most natural action to do. Going powerless, they traded blows to train their strength. After several minutes, Mino started to speak. So what's the deal with your friend? Felix blocked a kick and followed up with his own. Ayan? What about her? Do you want me to be honest? Mino asked bluntly. After seeing Felix nod, he continued. I don't like her. Felix froze at the statement. Why? She's been pretty kind to me, and she just has a lot of energy. Is that why you don't like her? Mino hit Felix with a leg sweep, knocking him over. It's more than that. You two met when she ran into you. Doesn't that seem suspicious? Or maybe she's just clumsy? Not everyone has an ulterior motive, Felix replied as he stood up and brushed himself off. Do you know anything about her? Mino asked. The contemplative look on Felix's face told Mino the answer. How about this? Prove me wrong then. If you can decide she doesn't have some kind of motive for befriending you, then I will take back everything I said and buy you that new game you want. With sparkling eyes and an energy burst, Felix jumped for joy and hugged Mino. I'll do my best! Mino reluctantly sighed, but smiled at Felix's enthusiasm. After the short break, the two went back to sparring. They were so caught up in their own world, they failed to notice the emerald by the bench glowing green. Best viewers! No! Go away, bot. Go away. I don't need you. Thank you, Blue. Finish my green tea, I gotta drink another one. Oh, goodness. No bots are gonna interrupt my story. Chapter 5. Help Wanted. Bright sunlight hit Felix in the face as he left his home to walk to work. While it had been a short time, it felt like an eternity since he had seen the kids at the daycare. Felix! Hi! Felix looked up and saw Ayan waving frantically. Hey, Ayan, he greeted back. What brings you here? I wanted to continue looking for the sacred locations, Ayan answered. Can we go now? Let's slow down a bit. I'm about to head into work, Felix replied with a chuckle. But we only have 2 left, Ayan pouted. Felix chuckled, upgraded into a laugh. There's plenty of time to find the sacred locations. Why are you in such a hurry? Ayan paused. A look of sadness glazed over her eyes for a brief moment before shaking her head. Forget it. Ooh, how about I join you at work? I've got nothing to do. It'll be perfect. Talk about whiplash. What was that? Felix thought to himself before showing Ayan the way to the daycare. Several minutes later, the two arrived at the daycare. Felix unlocked the door and let Ayan follow him in. She looked around with bright eyes. The colorful walls, children's drawings and paintings, and the tables assorted by age group. The feel of the rooms radiated warmth. Felix! Several kids walked into the room and gathered around Felix. Mumblings of positive energy radiated from Felix and the kids. Ayan took mental notes watching him interact with the children, guiding them through their crafts. He helped them use their powers to help their art projects. Some used water powers to paint with watercolors, while others used wind to blow the paints around. One little boy attempted to use fire powers to melt crayons, but his powers overwhelmed him and the fire spread. Felix jumped into action and found the fire extinguisher and quickly put out the fire. The boy started crying when he saw the fire burnt a few nearby plants. Ayan saw the brief event and briskly moved to sit next to the boy. Don't cry. Ion calmly spoke to the boy. She grabbed the burnt plants and placed them in front of them. Holding her hand out, a wave of faint golden light fluttered down onto the plants. Once the gold light hit them, the plants reverted to their form before being burnt. The boy stared in awe, watching the plants seemingly come back to life. There, that should do it. How can you do that? The boy asked. My grandpa taught me plant magic. Said it was a useful skill to have. Ion smiled. Magic? Felix asked while walking up to the boy and Ion. Isn't that what they call powers that aren't innate? Ion looked at Felix with wide eyes before smiling. Yeah, that's what I meant, my power. My grandpa was a bit old-fashioned and called powers magic. I must have slipped. My papa calls it magic too, a little girl spoke up. Grandma's called it magic before, an older boy replied. Must be an old person thing, another boy added. Felix nodded before directing the kids back to their activities. Ion helped him keep the kids on track. The kids loved Felix. The fact was clear as day. One pair of eyes were laced with sadness as they watched the activities through the day. Dark clouds surrounded a lone shack on the outskirts of town. Yuno and Mingi looked at the paper and then at each other, and released the breath they had been holding. With one brave step, Yuno knocked on the door to the shack. After 3 seconds, the door opened, letting out a black smoke in the process. Welcome in, boys. Are you Yunjin? Mingi asked, taking in the look of the woman walking out the door. The woman appeared on the taller side with long chestnut hair, while a long black robe draped over her body, making her appear witch-like. I am. What can I help you with? Hongjin said to come here to locate the sacred location in a cave. Yuno answered, watching Yunjin walk around carefully. Sacred location? Interesting, Yunjin muttered while turning inward and motioning for the men to go inside. Can you help us? Why? Do you need to find the sacred locations? Do you have the garden stone? What wish do you desire to make? Yunjin moved closer and closer to Mingi. Whoa, lady, you're a little too close. Yuno stepped between Mingi and Yunjin. Yunjin narrowed her eyes at the two men until a subtle purple glow caught her eye. Darting her eyes from the glow to Yuno, she asked carefully, You have the amethyst? Yuno gave a questioning look before pulling out the purple jeweled necklace. Emma, what? You mean this? Yunjin held out her hand and looked at the purple jewel more carefully. The light glow of purple illuminated a soft shimmer. Amethyst, or better known as the Witherstone, while the Garden Stone creates the Witherstone destroyed. While the Garden Stone creates, the Witherstone destroys. While this stone is not required to make the wish from the Garden Stone, it is used in other ways. Can it not find the sacred locations for you? Yuno and Mingi looked at one another with skeptical looks before Yuno replied, It's only ever reacted to being near the Garden Stone. Yunjin looked over the amethyst with sad eyes? She grabbed the chain and summoned a small, dark cloud that swirled around the jewel. A bright purple light encased the room for several long moments. Once the light dimmed, she returned the necklace to Yuno. Yuno and Mingi looked at the stone in awe while Yunjin slightly stumbled. The jewel will lead you to sacred locations. You cannot do anything else. Just make sure you do not throw it into the final location to make your wish. That is my only warning to you. Now go! I need a nap. Confusion in the air. Yuno and Mingi heeded to Yunjin's instructions of leaving and did exactly that. Once they stepped outside, the amethyst started glowing and floating towards the north. Mingi quickly pulled out his phone and called a specific person. After 3 rings, the recipient picked up. Hongjun, we have a lead. Golden rays cast through the windows of the daycare. The last child walked out the door, leaving Felix and Ion to clean up. Felix flew on autopilot while Ion struggled to keep up. Ayan stumbled on a small chair and Felix let out a soft giggle. You don't have to help me. I got it, Felix said through his laughter. I want to help, Ayan pouted. You do a lot for the kiddos. The least I can do is help clean up. I appreciate the help. I really do, Felix smiled. We can head out to find the sacred location when we're done cleaning up. If it's all right, I also asked Chan and Minho to come here. To come with extra... I appreciate the help. I really do, Felix smiled. We can head out to find the sacred locations when we're done cleaning up. If it's all right, I also asked Chan and Minho to come with for extra protection. Ayan's eyes lit up, but were quickly overtaken by a contemplative look. Showing a smile, not reaching her eyes, she replied, Alrighty. Felix smiled brightly in return. If we work together, we can get this done in 10 minutes. Ayan nodded in reply as she cracked down to help. Her chipper energy felt lower, but still worked quietly. Thoughts ran through her mind while her hands were busy. Once the final chairs were set on the tables, Ayan walked up to Felix. Hey, can I talk to you about something? Felix looked at her with mild concern. Of course. You can talk to me about anything, Ayan. Feeling her heart warm up, she gathered the courage to speak her mind. It's about the stuff. Hey, Felix, let's get this party started! Felix and Ayan looked at the door where Chan and Minho arrived. Chan appeared more enthusiastic than Minho, but both appeared ready to go. Felix placed a gentle hand on Ayan's shoulders and leaned in to whisper to her, We can talk later. Ayan nodded while trying to will away the blush threatening to cover her cheeks. She clapped her hands together and showed a bright smile. Oh, what are we waiting for then? Let's head out. Ayan skipped out the door while the three men shrugged and went along with it. Having Chan and Minho with them was meant to help protect Ayan. She will be all right. Right? Hello, Fernando. Hello, hello. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day. Hello. It has been a while. Welcome in. I am going to chill for a bit while I take a drink, and we also have ads coming up. I snoozed them earlier. So we're gonna chill right here. And plus this is we're on chapter 6 out of 12. So that's gonna be fun. Hopefully everyone is doing alright. Everyone's having fun. Just listening to me read. Yeah, we're just gonna chill right here and wait for ads to go by. Oh, ow. Stretching a little bit. Take some time to stretch a little bit. Take a break from what you're doing. Stretch. Group stretch. Get home, BRB, no worries, Blue. I guess that's one way to get up and stretch. Ah, my back. Yep. Do some stretches, get you a drink, take care of yourself during this ad break. I need to stretch. Man, my back needed that. Alright. Yep, gonna wait for ads to go. While we do that, I'm gonna scroll back up for people just coming in. Here's the poster. There you go. There's the poster. If anyone wants to see it. And again, ignore the fact that the female protagonist looks like me. Just ignore that. That was not on purpose. But as a reminder, that is Felix and Ayan. Alright, ads should be going right now. I am going to just kind of put up a reminder. Our goals have kind of shifted a little bit. Our next goal, the next follower goal, I'm thinking about doing a fanfiction reread of something, either a reread or reading something new from my past. I don't know. we'll do some kind of fanfiction reading again at 550. And then our sub goal has changed. We got a little smaller sub goal, but if we hit our sub goal, I will do community games, kind of a way to give back to the community for, you know, for support and everything. So, which is very rare for me. Playing games with the community is very rare for me. So, all right. I should be coming back from ads. For those who, you know, had some ads, hello, welcome back, hopefully. And yeah, our next follower goal is more fanfiction reading. It may not be something brand new, but it may be a reread of something, or I can find another story from my past, because there's a bunch more that we can read. And our current sub goal is, if we hit it, I will play community games with the viewers, which doesn't happen very often. It only has ever happened like one time before, like about 3 years ago. So it's just going to be a way to give back to the community. So there you go. There's our sub goal. All right, chapter 6, Princess. Soft breeze, dusk sky, and tree leaves rattling in the wind set the ambiance of the group's current adventure. Chan and Mino walked behind Felix and Ayan. Felix used his light to help guide their way through the forest in the attempt to find the next sacred location. So, Ayan, when are you going to properly hang out with us? Chan asked during a lull in the travels. She probably doesn't want to hang out with losers like us, Mino bluntly commented. You guys aren't losers, Ayan quickly interjected. I would love to hang out, but I've been so busy lately, I don't have time to hang out. Well, you have time for Felix, Mino calmly argued. Hey! Ayan pouted in protest. We've been busy finding the sacred locations. She probably hasn't thought of setting time aside to hang out, Felix replied while nudging Ayan's arm. In the meantime, what do you like to do when you're not with Felix? Chan asked with a bright smile. Ayan shrugged. Nothing special. Just running the flower shop at a stand way out of town. Flower shop? Chan questioned. Ayan spawned an arc of flowers from the ground in an attempt to demonstrate her powers. Need I say more? Chan tightened his lip and nodded in defeat while Mino laughed at the reaction. Felix let out a chuckle and turned to Ayan. What kind of flowers do you have at the shop? He asked her. We have about anything. We can make arrangements for any occasion. Weddings, funerals, just 'cause flowers, flowers for yourself. Really anything, Ayan nostalgically smiled. What's your favorite order you've done? Chan asked, walking closer to her and Felix. Ayan hummed and thought. Her thoughts carried her while looking at the sky. Probably a bouquet of orange chrysanthemums and green carnations. It was a beautiful arrangement of flowers. Made plenty of them for the event. Silence. Air continued to grow stiff, making Chan, Mino, and Felix uncomfortable. Ayan immediately noticed and frantically waved her hands around. It's not that depressing! It's just flowers! Lighten up, you guys! She nudged the closest person, who happened to be Felix. Felix looked at Chan and Mino nervously, but quickly wiped away the feeling and put on a smile. Just caught us off guard is all. Don't worry about it, Ayan. With awkwardness still in the air, the group moved on with tracking down the sacred location. 10 minutes of wandering around yielded no progress. Mino tapped Felix with the back of his hand. With me, he calmly commanded. Great idea, Mino. Chan nodded and looked at Ayan. Guess you're with me then. Ayan appeared confused as she looked at Felix with almost pleading eyes. Felix chuckled as he smiled gently. Chan won't bite. Honest. With one more look of confusion, Ayan reluctantly followed Chan. Mino and Felix walked to the east while Chan and Ayan headed west. You seem close with him, Chan spoke his thoughts. I guess we've gone pretty close in the last week, Ayan replied. How long have you guys known him? 8 years, maybe? We've known each other for a long time. Sometimes it makes it hard to spend time with him. Ayan immediately thought back to when she first met Felix. Sour feelings overwhelmed her for a brief moment. What do you mean? We've all been busy with our own lives. It's hard to line up everyone's schedules to hang out, Chan replied as he used his wind to move a few branches out of their way. Then why push him aside? Ayan spoke without a thought. Realizing her mistake, she shook her head, expressions changing every few seconds. One deep breath released later, Ayan continued. He looked so sad when I first saw him. He told me his friends didn't want to hang out. With the way he talked about it, it felt like it was an all-the-time occurrence. Oh, shit, I had no idea he felt that way, Chan expressed. It's one of the reasons I took him on this adventure, Ayan calmly said. Maybe after we're done here, we should make some time for him. The others have been wanting him to join us. Ayan nodded in agreement while looking at Chan. Thoughts ran rampant in her mind. Did she have it wrong? What did she have right? Purple ice crystallized in a small line in front of the path. Ayan immediately recognized the display of power and grabbed Chan's arm. Follow me, she called. The two ran towards the ice as quickly as they could. Ayan pulled up a large vine from the ground and urged Chan to jump on it with her. Using the vine to catapult them forward, they caught up to the ice user quickly. Chan used his wind to catch the man off guard. We meet again, Mingi, Ayan smirked. She summoned a large amount of vines to tie Mingi up, stopping him from using more of his ice. Where's your buddy? He's dealing with the other two. Now let me go! Mingi protested as particles of purple ice surrounded him. Chan released a gust of wind upward, sending the dark ice into the leaves. I don't think we want to let you go, he said as he lunged forward to strike Mingi with a powerful punch to the gut. Ayan controlled the vines to slam Mingi to the ground. This could have been a diversion to get Felix isolated. They're after the stone, she shouted as she urged Chan to run with her. 3 steps later, ice encased her feet, causing her to trip over herself. Chan looked back with concern, but Ayan shook her head. Go on! I'll be fine! Protect Felix! Chan nodded before sprinting off with his wind propelling him forward. Fighting his way through the trees, he eventually stumbled upon a subtle cave entrance. He could not ponder on the discovery for very long before a wave of dark water swept him off balance. Using a condensed gust of wind, he shielded himself from the next water attack. A bright whip of light splashed onto the water, effectively dissipating the darkness from the elements. Chan, are you all right? Where's Ayan? Felix asked frantically as he ran to Chan's side. I'm fine. Ayan got caught by some guy named Mingi, Chan answered. We'll finish up here and we'll catch up to her, Felix replied as another wave of water washed over them. A sharp gust of dark energy cut through the water. Should we take care of the stone now or after we beat these guys up? Mino asked, helping Chan stand. I'm afraid that won't be necessary. Pillars of earth rose from the ground with streams of water spiraling around them. The air felt heavier as the pillars grew. Menacing aura encased the area as a man in a dark cloak appeared in front of them. The man looked to his left. Thank you for gathering them in one spot, I'll take it from here. Yes, Hongjun, bowed and ran off in a direction. Felix looked over Hongjun and noticed purple deer on the front of the cloak. Shadow tribe, no doubt. However, this man's aura was more menacing than any other person he encountered, with the purple deer hoodies. He pulled out a purple gem similar in shape to the emerald Felix held. Tell me, do you know what this gem represents? Hongjun spoke with a darkly calmness. Waiting on no answer, he continued. Destruction. Now, why does it also lead to the sacred locations like the Garden Stone? Felix attempted to shoot a beam of light, but was easily avoided by Hongjun. What do you want with the stone? Felix asked, taking a defensive battle stance. To make a wish. Isn't it obvious? Hongjun replied. Can I get back to the Witherstone, please? The purple gem glistened with a dark aura. Destruction leads to creation. Creation leads to destruction. My wish would be to get back what I have lost. The stone you hold can rejuvenate anything, right? You're not taking it! Felix shouted before shooting another beam of light. Hongjun dodged the beam again. I guess I'll be taking... I guess I'll be taking that by Felix's fist met Hongjun's face in an intense impact. You talk too much, Felix scoffed. After stumbling, Hongjun wiped the blood from his mouth and waved his hand to upheave the earth. Moisture gathered around the area to create a large source of water to flood the immediate area. Felix, Chun, and Mino were washed away in the mass amount of water. Chun and Mino combined their efforts for a dark wind attack. Blocked. Easily. Hongjun smirked before snapping his fingers. Dark water and dark ice cascaded into the area. Plumes of dark energy circled Chun and Mino before ripping them away from Felix's side. Shades of Yuno and Mingi zoomed by in a blur. Felix turned to run after them, but a large rock wall rose from the ground. Eyes on me, Hongjun taunted before lighting a fire with his hands and shooting the fireball. Bright light flashed in the dense forest. The veil vanished with Felix looking winded. He fired beams of light to try and catch Hongjun off guard again, but nothing seemed to work. Hands and elements were thrown. Both men appeared equal in strength, with both physically attacking one another. Blood spilled from both men as they continued fighting. One beam of light countered with a wall of earth, another beam countered by a windshield. Element after element, the light could not break his defenses. The more Felix used his powers, the dimmer the light became. Hongjun closed the gap and grabbed Felix by the arm, twisting it to an absurd degree. Hongjun smirked. The light of the pure heart guides the stone to sanctuary. I guess that refers to you, pretty boy. Too bad your job is done. Right here and now. Blood-curdling screams drowned out any noise in the forest. Hongjun leaned down and grabbed the emerald from Felix's pocket. A small triumphant hum left his lips before turning toward the cave entrance. Hongjun! Turning over his shoulder, Hongjun was met with a giant vine to the midsection, crashing into the nearby rock wall. Hongjun looked up at the assailant. With a partially frozen and torn flannel, disheveled hair, and blood dripping from various spots, Ayan jumped from the trees and used her vines to approach Hongjun. "Hand it over!" she demanded with grit. So demanding, princess. Dark clouds floated towards Ayan. Once the clouds touched Ayan's arm, it began to burn her. She pulled away quickly, giving Hongjun a chance to escape. "Sorry to cut this reunion short, but I have to go. Later," Hongjun quickly said with a smirk and left after barricading the cave entrance with an earth pillar. Ayan started running towards where Hongjun ran, but her foot stepped in blood. Shock overcame her as she saw the battered state Felix was in. Major gashes, broken bones, and pale skin covered Felix's body. No. Ayan shook in fear. She looked back towards where Hongjun ran. He has the emerald. She should go after him. But Felix... Ayan... Don't talk. I'll help you. Ayan nodded frantically with tears threatening to escape. With one last look back, she took a deep breath and turned her full attention to Felix. Felix? Eyes fluttering open with vision coming into focus. Felix looked around and found Ayan looking down on him. "Felix, you're awake! Thank goodness! You looked really bad for a moment," Ayan frantically said while hurriedly helping Felix up. "Ayan, what happened? Where's Hongjun?" Felix asked, voice hoarse and growly. Ayan's shoulders dropped, looking down in defeat. She released a sigh. "He ran off with the emerald." Felix nodded slowly and looked around. Healthy trees surrounded a small spring. The water glittered in the light under the moonlight, giving it an almost magical appearance. Reaching out to the water, he noticed the odd mobility in his limbs. giving it an almost magical appearance. Reaching out to the water, he noticed the odd mobility in his limbs. His arm was just broken, right? Why could he move it suddenly? Spring here has healing properties. Ayan showed a small smile. I knew it was nearby. Her smile faltered. You almost died back there. Creating glitters of light from his hand, Felix carefully tested his range of motion. His injuries appeared healed. Thank you, Ayan, for saving my life. Ayan could not find the words. All she could do was nod in reply. Her powers took over and created a small bed of snapdragons. Felix saw the flowers bloom with small pink sparkles that matched the petals. Your power is amazing. Pause. A curt nod to acknowledge the statement. Quickly changing her demeanor, Ayan smiled and hopped to her feet. Can you walk? We should head home. You would probably prefer the rest in your own bed. You know, so you can be comfy. Felix chuckled gently. He reached out a hand to have Ayan help him. Let's head home. The two carefully walked out of the area of the spring, snapdragons waving in the small breeze. Chapter 7, Friendship. Been alright. Got a job delivered for Uber Eats in my area. The stream side is doing alright. Awesome! That is so good to hear. Make yourself lunch before I leave for meeting. Awesome! Make yourself something delicious. Everyone deserves a good, delicious lunch. I had a frozen pizza right before stream. Like, I literally finished it, and then, like, 5 minutes later, I went live. But yeah, that is so good to hear, and that's so awesome. Needed to get a good drink. I have to get Riley to hydrate too. I also need to stretch my legs a little bit too. Alright, chapter 7, Friendship. Entering the quiet nightlife of the town, Ayan and Felix arrived at the latter's home. Ayan looked around the dark house and took in what she could. The vibe felt homey, but empty. Can I help you with anything? Ayan asked after catching a glance at Felix walking down the hall. I don't need anything, but you can help yourself to anything in the kitchen, Felix weakly answered before disappearing into one of the bedrooms. Ayan nodded to herself as she turned the opposite direction. Cold lights illuminated the kitchen, making navigation somewhat easy. The kitchen was relatively clean, with hardly any dishes piled up in the sink. He probably lives alone, she thought after opening the fridge and finding hardly any food. After finding no food, she opted for a glass of water. Grabbing 2 cups, she filled them and walked to where Felix went. I got you some water, Ayan called out as she entered the room. Felix sat at the head of his bed trying to work out the sore muscles in his arm. He looked up at the door and smiled at Ayan. Thank you. After setting the cup of water down on the nightstand, Ayan leaned on the nearby wall. Are you home alone often? Usually. Sometimes my friends come by to help clean up, Felix answered before taking a long sip of water. They don't seem to come by very often. A long chain of coughs escaped from Felix's mouth, with small bits of water escaping. What do you mean by that? He asked through his coughing. Felix, I don't mean to sound rude about this, but it feels like your friends don't really show up for you. Confusion overtook Felix's face tenfold. Where was this coming from? Why did it sound bitter? What are you talking about? Ayan's eyes saddened. Do you remember when we first met? You were ditched by your friends. I don't think they're there for you as much as you think. Where are you getting this? They weren't there when you needed them. You almost died and they were nowhere to be found. Ayan rose her voice. If they were really your friends, they'd be trying to help you. Why are you bringing this up? Felix snapped and stood up to meet Ayan in the eyes. Ayan's eyes welled up with tears. I thought you wanted the wish. I guess I was mistaken. Felix instinctively grabbed Ayan's wrist, preventing her from leaving as she turned around. If this is about the Garden Stone, we can find it and get it back. What about the people that need you? You got the kids at the daycare and your friends. You got more than you realize. You don't need me. Go be with them. I was stupid for finding you. Ayan walked out of the bedroom and out of the house, leaving Felix confused and hurt. An hour and a half later, the loud sounds of the front door opening woke Felix out of his half-asleep state. Quiet mutterings became clearer once he realized who walked in the door. You're all right! Thank goodness! We were so worried about you! Chan peeked through the doorway and smiled, seeing Felix awake. Yeah. What happened with you guys? Chan walked in with Mino following suit, both sitting on Felix's bed. We got pulled away by those guys and fought for a while, Chan answered. By the time we got back, you were gone, Mino added. There were small bloodstains, but nothing to help find you. Felix felt more awake. Nothing? Chan nodded and looked up at the ceiling. It was so odd. We looked everywhere for a while. Right as we gave up, we thought to look here. Those other guys were long gone by the time we got there, Mino said as he looked over Felix. His eyes narrowed. You don't seem to have a scratch on you. What gives? Ayan! Ayan! She took me to this healing spring. She saved my life, Felix answered slowly. He remembered his last interaction with Ayan. Well, we ought to go find her and thank her, Chan smiled, sensing an off vibe from Felix. We can rest tonight and find her in the morning. We'll bunk with you, bro. Felix felt both relief and worry. Would she even want to see him now? And we are all doing great, to answer your question. We have been doing great, just taking things one day at a time. Everything's been pretty good. Still need to just stretch my legs. "11:27 a.m. Felix reluctantly walked through the outskirts of town with a few friends in tow. Chan and Mino wanted to join alongside two other friends, Yeji and Leah, mostly to make sure Felix thanked Ayan properly and to find where she lived. Are you sure this is a good idea? Yeji asked, following a small ball of blue light emitting from her hand. We need to find Ayan and make sure she's okay. We haven't seen her since yesterday, Chan replied. I'm all for finding Felix's new friend, Leah smiled as she walked alongside Felix. You seemed kind of lonely lately. Several pairs of eyes landed on Felix for a moment. Guys, I'm fine, he tried to argue, but was met with a small punch to the arm from Mino. You're clearly not fine. Attaching yourself to Ayan because we've been shitty friends? I don't think that's fine, Mino bluntly stated as he walked ahead. That's why we're looking for her, to make up for not being there for you. Chan looked at Felix with a sad smile. Felix looked back with bright, questioning eyes. Ayan told me about how you've been feeling. We're so sorry. With tears threatening to pour out of Felix's eyes before Yeji sadly interrupted. We're here, she said while pointing to a small run-down house with a raggedy flower shop next to it. The aesthetic appeared completely the opposite of what Felix expected. Ayan was bright, smiling, and colorful. Her house felt dark, dreary, and unfulfilling. The flower shop even appeared lackluster in color. With a collective breath, the group approached the door and knocked. After several moments, the door creaked open, revealing a disheveled Ayan. Her orange curly hair laid messily over her body, dark circles under her vibrant green eyes, and messy casual tank top with sweatpants combination. Tired eyes turned into mild shock upon realizing who she saw. Hey, what are you guys doing here? She asked calmly, voice slightly hoarse. Chan smiled brightly and pulled Felix to his side. We wanted to thank you for properly saving Felix's life. He told us you were the one who helped him, so we thank you again. The group bowed collectively for Ayun. She looked at them with mixed emotions. In a short moment, she shifted the energy and opened a door all the way. You don't have to thank me. Why don't you guys come inside? I don't have a lot, but I can find something for you guys. The 5 that were outside walked inside the house and found it was as run down as outside. Eiji and Leah sat on the couch while Chan and Miho sat on the floor nearby. Felix found himself following Ayun into the small kitchen. He noted her house was smaller by a large margin to his own. Do you need help with anything? Felix asked, seeing Ayun struggle with several bottles of water. I think I'm okay, Ayun quietly replied, setting down 2 bottles before moving back to where the others were to hand them their water. It's all I have right now. I hope it's okay. It's more than enough, thank you. Leah smiled as she took the water. Ayun walked back and grabbed the other 2 bottles for herself and Felix. Awkwardness filled the air for several moments. An exasperated sigh could be heard from the couch. You guys are so ridiculous. Eiji shook her head as she stood up and walked to Ayun. We can help you get the garden stone back. A small gasp escaped Ayun's lips. What? How? How do you think we found you? Chan looked up and smiled. We used Yeji here to track you down. She just needs something with the essence of the thing we're tracking, and she can locate it. I guess you can put it that way, Yeji sighed. Do you have anything that's in close relation to the stone? Ayun nodded as she disappeared around the corner and coming back with the giant book. Will this do? Is that the book the jeweler gave you? Felix asked, noticing the details of the cover. It's not quite the same book, but it's very similar, Ayun answered. Eiji placed her hand on the book and it lit up with a blue glow. The light traveled through her arms and to her eyes. I have it. It's stationary to the far east of town. Do you want to look for it? If it's stationary, then it shouldn't be super pressing to find it. We can probably look for it later. You could probably look later for it, Ayun replied. She exchanged numbers with the others shortly after and urged them to leave. Eiji and Leah smiled and waved while Mino gave a curt nod with no words. Chan stopped by the door and bowed his head. Thank you again for saving Felix. If there's anything you need, we're here for you, Chan said as he left the house. Ayun nodded as she closed the door. Without looking away from the door, she called out, If you have something to say it now, Felix. Felix flinched at the somewhat harsh tone. I'm sorry for not listening to you. He walked closer and tried placing a hand on her shoulder, but the moment he touched her, she recoiled. I just wanted to help you. Ayun turned to look at Felix. You seemed so lonely. I don't understand why you're stuck with those who don't seem to care. It's where you're wrong. They do care. They just had a crappy way of showing it. They've apologized and they're doing better. You even heard Chan. He'll help when we need it. We have more help with the garden stone now. We can get it back and get that wish, Felix said with a gentle look. Yeah, the wish. Listen, Felix. I'm sorry for forcing this on you. Felix looked at her with sad eyes. You didn't force this on me. I agreed to go with you, and I feel responsible for losing the stone. Even if we don't make the wish at this point, we should get the stone back. I don't like it in the hands of that Hongjun guy. Ayun slowly nodded while pondering her own thoughts. He's probably the one that has the stone. What, Yeji? If what she says is accurate, then he's not moving. We probably have time to prepare more. Felix mirrored her nod, his hands clammed up while one question entered his mind. So, are we okay now? Fear, confusion, and sadness coated Felix's eyes. Memories of the last 2 weeks flooded in both of their minds. Although it was short, the time they spent together was eventful. After reading Felix's expression, Ian reached out and grabbed his hands and gently squeezed them. "We're okay." Felix visibly relaxed and lunged forward for a tight embrace. Ian chuckled to herself before wrapping her arms around his waist. Her body relaxed in the warmth, but part of her felt an impending worry. Whew. Ow. That hurt my finger opening my green tea bottle. Chapter 8, Blending Feelings. East of the town, in the dark house, Hongjun sat in his office chair and looked longingly at the shining emerald in his hands. Chuckling to himself, he propped his feet on the desk. "Getting you was easier than I thought," he spoke to himself. His smile slowly faded as he lost himself in thought. That pretty boy with the light power. That book mentioned light of the pure heart. So she found him, huh? Tossing the emerald by the chain and grabbing the gem. He squeezed it while humming. "Princess hasn't changed at all. Haven't seen her in 3 years since the old man died." He turned around in his chair and looked at the large frame portrait of an elderly man. The name John Young-ho written on the gold nameplate of the frame. Hongjun looked over the portrait with sadness. The door creaked open, revealing Yuno looking exhausted. "Sorry to bother you, but we have a travel team ready." Hongjun looked over his shoulder and nodded slowly. "Thank you, Yuno. Any sign of that group we saw?" "None," Yuno answered as he looked around the office with eyes eventually landing on the portrait. "So, who exactly is that, Hongjun?" "That's John Young-ho. He was the one who started the Shadow Tribe. We continue work in his honor," Hongjun answered with a nostalgic smile. "He died?" 3 years ago. He was killed in a tragic accident involving the Garden Stone. I intend to bring him back." Hongjun whipped out the emerald as he replied, showing Yuno the green glow of the gem. "We'd do anything for you, but is this really a good idea?" Yuno asked, voice laced with concern. "We need Young-ho's knowledge to continue the operation of the Shadow Tribe. We can't bring him back if the princess is in the way." Hongjun brushed off the concern as he laid the stone on the desk. "Princess?" "The redhead." Thought back to the group they fought. The image of a large mane of curly orange hair appeared in his mind. "That girl with the plant powers? Wears a lot of green and black?" "That'd be her. Watch out for her. She's still alive somewhere," Hongjun answered. "As for the travel team, we leave in a week. Princess can't do much on her own, so we have plenty of time." Concerned thoughts raced through Yuno's mind, but he could not argue with his leader. With a reluctant sigh and bow, "Yes, Hongjun." Quiet ambiance filled the dojo bright and early in the morning. Felix sat on the mat as he stretched his legs. His body felt like brand new after the near-death experience fighting Hongjun mere days ago. The jingle of the doors opening snapped Felix out of his thoughts. "Why did you decide to do this early in the morning?" "Because we will have the whole day to work on training. You were the one who asked for it, Ayun." Felix chuckled as Ayun walked in and plopped herself on the floor next to him. "I only asked because any kind of self-defense is better than nothing, especially when Hongjun is involved." Ayun sighed as she sat up, brushing off her black t-shirt and green shorts. "We don't need any actual deaths anytime soon," Felix sighed along with Ayun. "Where should we begin?" The basics?" Ayun chuckled. "I could only do so much with only vines. My grandpa didn't teach me much about actual combat. I had to learn a lot on my own." "You've mentioned your grandpa before. What's he like? Felix asked, standing up with a small hop. Ian hesitated while moving to stand up. He wasn't all that great. Sure, he taught me to control plants, but other than that, he was a jerk. Felix nervously chuckled. A jerk? Sounds like an old guy. Old is right, Ian softly smiled. Typical old guys, right? Anyway, let's start with some basic sparring. Felix nodded as he and Ian stood in their respective stances. Ian rushed with a small fury of attacks. Felix effortlessly dodged the attempts and blocked several of the stronger blows. You're pretty quick, he commented as he grabbed her arm for an arm drag. In the midst of being pulled down, Ian quickly wrapped her legs around Felix's shoulder and pulled him down with her to put him in an arm bar. Felix let out a yelp when he felt his arm pull. Ian immediately let go and tried helping Felix up. I'm so sorry! Are you okay? I didn't mean to hurt you! You still need your limbs to help find the stinking jewel! What have I done? His scrambled thoughts were cut off by Felix's laughter. I can see why you don't fight like this. I can handle a little pain for sparring, but that armbar was crazy. Where did you learn that? Instinct? Ian shrugged her shoulders up to her ears. Grandpa didn't like it when I tried to fight the boys in the neighborhood growing up, so he stopped me from seeing them for a long while. You fought neighborhood kids? Felix asked through his laughter. They were picking on a friend of mine. I had to do something. She wasn't very good at speaking up, Ian answered with a sad smile. I like that about you, Felix smiled brightly. You always know when to show up for somebody. More people need that quality. Looking away shyly, Ian attempted to hide her blushing cheeks. I just try to help people. You're pretty good at it. You've helped me a bunch, Felix calmly replied, while reaching over to tuck a stray strand of hair behind Ian's ear. You just radiate positive energy. I feel at ease when I'm around you. I love spending time with you. Felix, do you... Shooting up with gusto, Felix brushed off his pants and quickly said, Well, let's get back to sparring. We can work on fine-tuning your technique. Ian pouted briefly before ultimately complied with a smile. She hopped up and prepared herself for the next move. Dark clouds surrounded a lone shack outside of town. Red zinnias bloomed slowly as soft footsteps approached the shack. The door opened, revealing a taller woman with long chestnut hair and a black robe draped over her shoulders. She looked tired, but smiled upon seeing the one on the other side of the door. Ian! It's been a while! Same to you, Yunjin! Ian smiled as she walked into the shack. How have you been? I've been better, feeling a bit drained lately. And you? Yunjin replied as she shut the door. I also feel drained, possibly for different reasons, Ian answered. Did you really power the Witherstone? I had no choice. It's either power it or get killed, Yunjin said while filling a teapot with water and setting it on a small gas stove. Have you made any progress yet? Ian hummed and thought as she pulled out a chair from the table and sat down. Halfway. Hangjin locked away one of the sacred locations, so we're a bit stuck. Could you help me out, please? Ah, that's why you're here, Yunjin smirked. You can't just visit to visit anymore. What a shame. Ian left out a soft chuckle. I'd love to see you more, but you know what mission I'm on. I know. We can set out after a cup of tea? Yunjin smiled right as the teapot whistled. Making quick work with the 2 cups, she poured tea in each cup and handed one to Ian. Golden sparkles emanated from Ian's left hand as she bloomed a small hibiscus flower to soak it in the tea. I know that's not what you wanted to make, it just sounded good. You and your flowers. Yunjin shook her head as she sat down in the chair next to Ian. Do you know where the last locations are? taking a good long sip of her tea. Ayan sighed before answering. I don't know the last one, but we do have good tracking, so we can find it easily. We? Yeah. We. A few friends and I are able to track down the emerald and try to get it back, Ayan warily answered. Yunjin's eyes filled with sorrow. Ayan. I'm well aware, Ayan curtly replied, downing her drink and quickly standing up. She walked to the door. Let's go. Please? A hefty sigh filled the empty air. Without another word, Yunjin followed Ayan to the shack and into the forest. The zinnias decaying in the purple mist trail from Yunjin's steps. Whew. Actually, I'm just gonna put the banner right there. We're gonna take a break. I need to get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, grab some snacks, give Riley a snack. So, we're gonna take our break. We're going to get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, grab a snack, do whatever it is you need to do, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, we are back. I didn't change much on the music, I just kept it going, it's fine. Alright, we're back. We're on chapter 9? 9 out of 12. Alright, hopefully everyone has been enjoying themselves so far. Got a good stretch break in, getting stuff to drink, snacks, food, everything. Hope everyone is taking care of themselves while we enjoy this wonderful, wonderful story. Alright. Okay, chapter 9, Garden Stone. Let's all hang out for the day. Meeting at Binny's at 12? Felix looked at his phone and reread the message from Chan in the group chat. He looked up at the sign of a small coffee shop and sighed to himself. Eyes looked over his dark blue and white varsity jacket and dark baggy jeans. Everything looked fine. Was he the first one here? Where was everyone else? Did he have the right time? Did he? Felix! Also, hello, DA. Hello, hello. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you for the hydrate and the posture check. There was the hydrate. Posture is pretty good. Okay. Felix! Feeling his body relax, he looked to his left and found Ayan smiling happily while running towards him. She wore black jean shorts, black shirt, and a green and black varsity jacket. Long orange curly hair in her typical messy half-up style. Look at us! We're kind of matching. Look at us! We're kind of matching, he called with a bright smile. Totally unintentional, but it works, Ayan chuckled. Who's here? I haven't gone in yet, so I don't know, Felix answered. Ayan pouted before grabbing Felix's wrist and walking inside the shop. Pink walls greeted the two as they walked through the door, entering the cozy vibe. Few people sat on the tables while the two entered, but they recognized a small group in the back corner. Hey, you two! Chan smiled and waved from his spot at the table. Seated next to him were Mino, Yeji, Lia, and a few new faces. Looks like we're right on time, Ayan smiled while looking back at Felix. With one last comforting squeeze, she let go and sat down with the group. Felix followed shortly after with a bright smile of his own. The group's energy shot up when Felix and Ayan joined. A full friendship. Several muses of inside jokes, laughter, and positive vibes filled the cafe. Displays of sparkling power shone bright in their corner. Felix used his light to cast a glow on the table, while Chan used his wind to gently make the light sparkle. Laughter echoed throughout the room as everyone conversed in mindless chatter and showing off powers. Time passed like nothing for everyone. An hour later, the group migrated to a local bowling alley. Chan paid for everyone before they went to change their shoes. Ayan sat down to change her shoes before Mino and a somewhat familiar face sat next to her. Hey guys, she calmly greeted. You and Felix good now? Mino bluntly asked. That's a bit rude to ask, the man sitting next to Mino playfully snapped at him. It's only rude if they're not, Jisung, Mino replied before turning his attention back to Ayan. We've been good for a while. What are you getting at? Ayan narrowed her eyes at Mino. Still don't know what your end game is, Missy. Just leave Felix out of it. His life was just fine without you. Mino! Jisung exclaimed. He frantically turned to Ayan and said, Don't worry about him. He's always grumpy. Everything's fine. Let's just bowl and forget this conversation ever happened. Jisung, you go first! Chan hollered, breaking up the short conversation. Jisung froze before replying happily to Chan. Ayan and Mino watched him happily walk away. Small embers leaked from Jisung's footsteps and landed on a small piece of paper. Ayan quickly waved her hand to rid the fire from the paper while seemingly replacing the charred edges with new paper. The action was quick, but not completely unnoticed. You can regenerate paper now? Mino scoffed. Ayan, with a brief moment of panic in her eyes, quickly retorted, Paper is made from trees! Trees are plants! I control plants! Fixing burnt paper is nothing to me. Mino stared incredulously before Felix walked over and sat down next to Ayan. Having fun yet? He asked with a wide smile. When Mino quits being a butthead, then I'll start having fun. Ayan mirrored the wide smile. Mino let out a scoff before removing himself from the vicinity. Felix watched with confusion before turning back to Ayan. Don't mind him. He gets cranky, but he means well. She nodded in reply to the statement before donning a bright smile. Anyway, let's have some fun. And fun they had. Time flew by as the evening went on. Time flew by fast as the evening went on. Bowling ended, and now the group headed outside their next destination. John had suggested a few split up to grab a few snacks. Many of the group suggested Ayan and Felix head to a convenience store by themselves and left before any objections. Well, just you and me, Felix, Ayan cheered. Let's go! Felix let out a small laugh as they walked into one of the small convenience stores. They perused the aisles, grabbing any snack food they could, bags of chips, bottles of drinks, and a few extra goodies, and they were ready to head out. Ayan insisted on holding all of the items. All Felix could do was laugh. Think everyone will like these? I feel like I didn't make a good impression before. Surely this will be okay, right? I think they'll be fine. And don't worry about everyone liking you. They already do. A small beat of silence before she spoke again. It's not that easy. It's a big group of people. It's almost easier to only have a few to worry about. If anything, you have me, he said calmly, deep voice resonating in the air. I appreciate you, Felix. You have this warm blanket feel. That sounded weird. A light in the dark. Yeah, that's what I pick up from you. You can calm my nerves without even trying. That's why I like you so much, she said with a soft smile. Moving her head to look up, Ayan was met with Felix leaning in and just gently placing his lips on hers. After a short moment of shock, she found herself kissing him back with the same gentleness he showed her. Pulling apart slowly, they could sense one another's heart rate quickening. Felix cleared his throat before breaking the silence. I like you a lot, too. A gentle hand brushed against Ayan's cheek. Now, let's meet back with the others. We can talk more later tonight. Ayan nodded as her green eyes reflected a roller coaster of emotions. Questions and concerns would have to wait as she followed him down the street. She looked at him with worried eyes, but he only smiled gently. In hopes to comfort her. Several minutes in comforting silence later, the two met back up with the rest of the group at a mid-sized gazebo. They set the bags down of goodies on the table and sat down. Before anybody had a chance to dig into the snacks, Yeji's hands began glowing. Felix, stone's on the move, she warned Felix. Felix, Ayan, Chan, Mino, and Leah perked up at the warning as the rest of the group felt on edge. Most knew of the garden stone and were told Felix and Ayan had been looking for it. Chan stood forward and took initiative, giving Felix a comforting nod. Where is it heading? Yeji focused her powers to pinpoint the emerald. Off to the north. Skylight Tower. A wicked-looking man is holding the stone. Hongjun, Ayan muttered. Let's go, quickly. Ayan ran toward the north with Felix following closely. Chan, Mino, Yeji, and Leah followed closely, behind with the others trailing further. This was a chance to find the garden stone and take it back. Also, pasta is good. Pasta is good. I'm a mess, 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 mess. I'm a mess, 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 mess. I'm a mess in distress, but we're still the best. Stress, fearless, say yes. We don't dress to impress. Oh, I was taking a drink. Goodness. Alright. Moonlight coated the monolithic building that was the Skylight Tower. Frantic footsteps ran through the doors and to the closest way to ascend. Ayan and Felix took the closest elevator while the others hung back to watch for possible attackers. Ayan instinctively looked up towards the top of the elevator. Her heart rate increased slightly and her hands clammed up. She felt a small bit of her energy leak before reeling it in. Felix noticed her discomfort and reached around to pull her in by the shoulder. Small light particles floated around for a calming effect. We'll be all right. We'll get the stone back, get it powered up, and go make a positive wish with it. Positive wish. Right. Aya nodded to herself, allowing herself to feel his warmth. She relaxed a considerable amount. We need to stop Hongjun first. Then we can worry about getting that wish. Felix nodded confidently right as the elevator came to a halt. The doors opened to reveal an extravagantly decorated hallway leading to an exhibit-type room. In the middle was a golden basin kept in pristine condition. The two walked carefully up to the basin and examined the gold structure. This one looks newer than the others, he commented, hands gently brushing the outside edge. Ayan gently ran her hand near the inside of the bowl, fingertips barely touching the liquid contained. Looks to be part of some kind of show. Of course it'd be taken care of compared to the others. Yeah, but have you noticed anything? No? It's a little too quiet. I say it's a little too quiet as ads are coming up. I'm gonna stop right there because I have the advantage of knowing the story. It's a little too quiet. All right. Take this moment to stretch a little bit. As ads are going. Gotta stretch my legs a little bit. Again, it's a little too quiet. That's always bad. My hair is bugging me today so bad.
Nice.
Nice. Not quite what I expected out of what's coming up, but it's fine. Just trimming my flyaways with nail clippers, it's fine. Alright, we are in an ad break right now. Alright. Alright. Whew. I'll probably kind of reread a bit when we come back from ads. Just to kind of get the right setup for the scene. Like, I tried to time the ads okay, and I wanted to snooze it, but I didn't get there in time. Alright, we should be coming back from ads. Hello, welcome back. We're just gonna reread a little bit up here at the top of the page. I'm just gonna reread that as we come back. Felix nodded confidently right as the elevator came to a halt. The doors opened to reveal an extravagantly decorated hallway leading to an exhibit-type room. The middle was a golden basin kept in pristine condition. The two walked carefully up to the basin and examined the gold structure. This one looks newer than the others, he commented, hands gently brushing the outside edge. Ayan gently ran her hand near the inside of the bowl, fingertips barely touching the liquid contained. Looks to be part of some kind of show. Of course it'd be taken care of compared to the others. Yeah, but have you noticed anything? No? It's a little too quiet. Plumes of fire erupted from the exit door and filled the room with the heat. The flames quickly disappeared once the sprinkler system kicked on. A dark cackle echoed in the exhibit, causing Ayan and Felix to frantically look for the source. Did I startle you? Hongjun's voice commanded the room. Good. I'm a bit startled myself. I thought you were dead, pretty boy. Felix immediately stood protectively over Ayan. It's gonna take a lot more than that to kill me. Where's the stone? Oh, this thing? Hongjin held the emerald for the two to see. It's a beautiful sight, really. This little stone will help me resurrect the true leader of the Shadow Tribe, Jun Young-ho. The color drained from Ayan's face. Her bright green eyes stared at Hongjin with a mix of fear and astonishment. You're going to revive who? Felix summoned light particles to create a shield for the two. He felt tense emotions between Ayan and Hongjun. Questions for later. Hongjun's laugh cut through their thoughts. I've got a wish to make, Princess. I'll see you later. Turning tail, he disappeared through the stairwell to the rooftop. Without hesitation, Felix and Ayan ran toward the stairs in a mad dash to catch Hongjun. Ayan summoned large plant vines to help clear the way and catapult them to the top faster. Busting the door open, Felix ran straight for Hongjun with a flying kick. Pretty boy's got some fight in him, Hongjun snidely commented. Felix hit a few side kicks in an attempt to throw him off balance. Earth shards lifted from the ground to shield the attacks. All right, I'll play, but this time, as the light of the stone, I'll kill you for sure. The hell you won't! Felix argued as he used the light powers to up his physical combos, his taekwondo skills aiding him nicely. Hongjun dodged and shielded most of the onslaught, but two peculiar vines snuck up behind him and kept him in place. Felix landed a nasty kick to the jaw thanks to the aid of Ayan's plants. Felix walked up to Hongjun and tried and frisk him for the emerald, but a wall of ice cut between him and the jewel. Felix! Ayan hollered. She tried to run toward him, but dark elements surrounded her before she had a chance. An arm reached for her, but her quick reactions let her grab the arm to flip over her shoulder and pin them down. She looked at the owner of the arm and saw it was Yuno. Sorry, I can't let Hongjun make that wish. Excuse me. Yuno let out a grunt of pain before it was relieved when Hongjun cast a wind to knock Ayan off. You have great technique, but your strength always needed training, Hongjun slyly called as he used a chunk of earth to pull Ayan closer to him. Ayan tried to fight out of his reach, but he was too quick. She tried fighting to reach the emerald. All her efforts would not be in vain. Grabbing his shoulder, she squeezed and something felt off. He let out a loud yelp of pain from his shoulders, burning before reaching over and smacking on her. All her efforts would not be in vain. Grabbing his shoulder, she squeezed and something felt off. He let out a loud yelp of pain from his shoulder, burning before reaching over and smacking her on the cheek. The two continued their cheap shots for several moments before a sharp wind blasted between them. Waves of darkness followed by glimmers of light following suit. Chan, Mino, and Felix separated Hongjun and Ayan. In the confusion, Ayan snatched the emerald quickly, making it glow a vibrant green, and tried running away, but Hongjun grabbed her hair and pulled her back toward him, causing her to drop the gem. Ayan turned and looked over her shoulder, and they saw they were on the edge of the rooftop of the tower. The others attempted to save her, but Hongjun's men kept them preoccupied. You're such a pest, princess, Hongjun muttered while fighting Ayan's small kicks. You can't make that wish! Ayan gritted before she was struck in the gut, then the chin caused a cut to her cheek. Hongjun pushed Ayan away, causing her to lean back over the railing. I can, and I will. You don't understand the importance of it. Ayan looked around the rooftop. Chaos. Everyone engaged in a fight with someone. Her eyes briefly locked with Felix. Quickly growing blue hydrangeas towards him, she leaned back further. It is you who doesn't understand the importance of the garden stone. Finally leaning all the way back, she tipped over the edge of the barrier and sent herself falling off the building. Curly orange hair flowing in the wind briefly before her view of Felix was replaced with the moonlit sky. Gasps reverberated on the rooftop from everyone, but one voice pierced the night. Ayan! Also, Fernanda, you have probably already left, but I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you for stopping by. Dang, gotta open my bottle of green tea. Why am I going to the Shadow Realm? Why am I going to the Shadow Realm? What did I do? Chapter 10, Rejuvenation. Tick, tock. Tick, tock. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Felix, please, can you stop pacing around? I can't, Chan! What if she's... Felix could not maintain his anger and broke down on Chan's shoulder. Chan wrapped an arm around him in a comforting hug. Leah's working hard. Let's trust her, yeah? Feeling his breath slowing down, Felix nodded in response. I'm so scared. I know. We're scared too. We're just as worried as you. We were just as worried about you a couple weeks ago. You turned out all right. Leah's a good healer. Ayan will make it. Chan let out comforting words. He pulled away and patted his shoulder and urged him to sit. Reluctantly, Felix took a seat next to Chan on the couch. His mind fluttered with fragments of the events of the previous night. After Ayan hit the ground, Hongjun had escaped with the emerald along with his goons. The second group hanging back found Ayan on the ground, unconscious with a small puddle of blood pouring from her head. Immediately she was rushed away and back to Chan's house. Leah quickly took over the healing duties and had been working since. That was 6 hours ago. Muted blues shone through the windows, signaling the sun beginning to rise. An anxiousness in the air surfaced as Felix's leg began shaking. Soft creaks of a door cut through the silence. The boys' attention snapped to where the sound came from. Leah walked out of the room looking completely disheveled. How is she? Felix ran up to Leah and grabbed her arms. Whoa, Felix! She's fine! I actually wanted to ask you some questions. Leah tiredly shook off his grasp. What's going on? Her injuries were strange. That fall should have killed her. But she's alive. While healing her, I noticed her injuries were... pre-healing? I can't describe it any other way, Leah explained carefully. Does she have any kind of healing ability? I don't think so. She can grow plants, but maybe it has something to do with that? Felix tried reasoning. Growing plants and healing your own body are two different things, Chan tried to argue. There's a loose connection, but not enough for it to make sense, Leah added. We can talk to her later, but for now, she's stable, and we should get some rest. Leah walked away slowly while Chan and Felix looked on with sad, tired eyes. Chan nudged Felix and motioned toward the hall. Go. Felix nodded before walking down the hall and to the only closed door. Taking a deep breath, he slowly opened the door. His heart broke when the image of Ayan lying in bed appeared in view. Her hair was taken out of the half-up style and laid over her shoulders. Was her hair always this long? He sat on the floor next to the bed and looked over her closer, color slowly returning to her features, but prominent dark circles coated her under eyes. I'm so sorry, he muttered as he carefully grabbed her hand, light particles glistening around her hand. I should have done more. I should have protected you better. I feel awful. You did enough. Whipping his head, he looked right at Ayan, whose eyes slowly fluttered open. Ayan! He called as he moved his hand to her cheek. Ayan barely cracked a small smile. I'm okay. You don't need to be sad anymore. Felix smiled before tears flooded from his eyes. Using her small bits of energy, she reached over and pulled Felix down for a comforting hug. The two stayed in their embrace for seemingly an eternity. Golden light sprinkled around the two, and it did not go unnoticed from Ayan. How are you feeling? Felix asked as his sobs died down. I'll be all right in a few hours. I know my body. Ayan attempted to smile wide. Her energy was not 100%, but her spirit remained unbroken. He let out a soft chuckle. Expression fell somewhat flat before he asked, Can you heal yourself? Her eyes widened briefly before she carefully sat up, breaking their previous embrace. Where did you get that? Leah said your body healed itself, he said, but his inflection showed his confusion. His eyes briefly caught scars near the back of her shoulders. Instinctively, he reached out to touch them. Eyes looking everywhere after flinching, she tried thinking back to the previous night. It could be the garden stone, maybe? I did try to grab it from Hongjun several times. I did hold it once, so its powers could have helped heal my body before my fall? The garden stone does have rejuvenation powers, right? He nodded to himself, explanation making complete sense. A sigh of relief. Speaking of, does Hongjun still have the jewel? She asked. The silence answered the question for her. I figured as much. We don't have much time. He said he was going to revive the true leader of the Shadow Tribe. We probably ought to stop him. We definitely should. I can't let him bring Grandpa back. Grandpa? Ayan let out a short gasp, followed by a massive exhale. My grandpa was the leader of the Shadow Tribe for an ungodly amount of time. He died 3 years ago, and the tribe have grown restless. Most of them grew out of the tribe, but Hongjun, he wants to bring back the tribe by using the Garden Stone to bring him back to life. I can't let that happen. Felix listened intently to every word, noticing the solemn tone, seeing the scars, and her flinching when those scars were touched. He found a sense of understanding. Pulling away from that subject, he moved on to his other thoughts. So, you know Hongjun, then? I guess there's no getting around it. We grew up together. He probably grew resentful over Grandpa's special attention on me. Oh, no, not that kind of special attention, thankfully. But after Grandpa died, Hongjun had been relentlessly hunting down the Garden Stone. If he's this desperate, we really don't have much time. Ayan reached her hand to gently touch Felix's cheek, eyes slowly turning sharper and had a specific glimmer. We have to find the altar. It's where he's heading. If we read through that book, he can find it. Felix grabbed her hand and leaned into it with a soft smile. His first worry eased before his eyes, but his second worry will take some time. You sure this book will hold all the answers? It hasn't failed us yet. Felix sighed as he opened the book with Ayan sitting next to him. A few of their friends roamed around the room, helping with anything they could. Felix opened up the book at a random spot and looked through the contents. The current page revealed a passage about the Garden Stone. The Garden Stone's powers indicate pure rejuvenation, even resurrecting the dead. Many believe this causes a vicious cycle of abusing the stone's power. Powers of light pair brilliantly with the stone itself, counteracting the darkness. The light of the pure heart guides the stone to sanctuary, thus breaking the abusive cycle. I can see why people want the stone so bad, Felix muttered to himself while Ayan hummed along with him. Why does that sound familiar? He thought as he continued to flip the pages until a picture of a chasm caught his attention. Once the stone gains the power of all 4 basins, it is ready to be thrown into the chasm to make the wish. The chasm is found deep underground from a passageway in the Withers Forest. Withers Forest? That's just west of town. About where you live, Felix noted out loud. Aya nodded. Crazy how that works. We shouldn't have trouble locating the chasm. Mino overheard the conversation and chimed in. We could form a group together and go. Bro needs stopped, and you two sure as hell aren't doing it alone. Thanks for your wonderful input, Ayan sarcastically snapped. I do agree a team is the best way to go. The area might be fairly big, and we can maybe whittle them down and stop that wish from happening. Everyone around picked up on the conversation and subtly prepared a plan to help Ayan and Felix. Mino walked over to Chan and nudged his shoulder. Something's changed, he simply stated. What do you mean? Chan asked quietly. She's not as bitchy as before. Chan released a disappointed sigh. Not quite the word I'd use, but I see your point. She seems a bit chipper than before. Something definitely happened between those two. Mino hummed in reply before leaving. Before leaving, he said one last statement. I still feel like she's hiding something from us. Chan furrowed his brow as Mino walked off. His gaze traveled to Ayan and Felix, who were chatting away. Ayan looked happy, but her emerald eyes could not lie. Chapter 11, The Wish. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. I'll take another one. I will take another one. Nah, no I don't. Oh, shocked about. Alright, chapter 11, The Wish. Felix locked the door to the daycare, signaling the end of the day. But it was only the beginning of the long night ahead. Shortly after, Chan and Mino walked up to Felix and headed towards the west. The 3 walked silently for a majority of the trip. Heavy air surrounded the 3 as each bared thoughts of varying degree. They met up with Ayan and the rest of their friends on the outskirts of town. Without another word, they traveled further west. Eiji helped guide everyone with her navigation powers. Ayan appeared to know the way, as she never looked to Yeiji on where to go. An hour later, the group found a hole in the ground dug up just outside of Withers Forest. He's already here, Ayan muttered as she followed the path underground. After hesitating, the rest followed suit, with some hanging back to protect the others. The long tunnels filled the air with murky humidity. Along the humidity, an air of anxiety hit everyone walking through. The tunnel felt endless, dank walls, humidity rising, and dimly lit passageways, until a brighter light shone. The group quickly headed toward the light and found the end of the tunnel to find... a city? Dim golden lights coated the empty, caved-in buildings. A mix of ancient and modern architecture paved every street. The group walked to what appeared to be a central plaza. A large rusted gold fountain stood in the center. Doesn't this look like those basins? Felix turned to Ayan and asked. The light in Ayan's eyes dimmed as she looked at the fountain longingly. Yeah, looks quite similar. Looks like there used to be water here. Chan walked up to the fountain. How long do you think this place has been abandoned? 15 years at least. Ian immediately answered, but quickly put on a nervous smile before adding, "Just a wild shot in the dark." John chuckled at the nervous tone. Seems to be right. It looks ancient, but also lived in. "What even is this place?" Felix asked while looking around. "Seems important. Must be in that book or something," Mino chimed in. "Probably ought to walk around and scope the place." Ian nodded while her and Felix walked off toward a library. Walking in the front doors, they were greeted by piles of dust. Both entered a coughing fit while attempting to get their bearings. Felix headed toward the history books while Ian found the fiction section. "There's lots of books here," Felix commented as he pulled a book similar to the one he and Ian studied. "It's a library, silly." Ian chuckled as she rummaged through several books. Felix let out a soft chuckle before pulling another book. Town Leaders, 1842 to 2010. He flipped open a page. A picture of an older man donned the page with text next to it. 1911. John Young-ho, age 68. Continuing his leadership, John Young-ho led the town with his plan for mass vegetation. His plant magic carried the town to a time of peace. John Young-ho. Isn't that the name of the guy Hongjun wants to revive? Ian walked to Felix upon hearing the name. Without saying a word, she glanced at the open pages of the book. Felix flipped through several pages and noticed a strange pattern. 1942. John Young-ho, age unknown. John Young-ho appears more closed off than usual. He refuses to see his people and consult the problems of the common folk. 1975. John Young-ho, age unknown. John Young-ho has left his people behind. He is so consumed by great powers to be. Few continue to follow him. Give me a second. We're gonna just jump ahead in the music, don't worry about it. The music felt too peppy for what we're doing. Alright, 1975, John Young-ho, age unknown. John Young-ho has left his people behind. He is so consumed by great powers that be. Few continue to follow him. 1999, John Young-ho, age unknown. More people began following him. Appears to be some sort of tribe. What has happened to him? 2010, John Young-ho, age unknown. He must be brought down. The Shadow Tribe is too strong. With the power of the Garden Stone by his side, we can do nothing. We must get rid of it. There's nothing after this year, Felix mumbled. Did you see something odd about this? John Young-ho, your grandpa, he appeared as a town leader from 1911? Is this the same guy or just a weird family lineage? Ian's face contorted into one of concern. The Garden Stone. That was the source of all the problems. If he was consumed by power, we certainly have to stop Hongjun, he said as he placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You seem to have a good intuition about this place. I'll trust you on this. She nodded with tears welling up in her eyes. One deep breath later, she marched toward the doors with confidence. If I know Hongjun, he probably has a trick up his sleeve. We need to stop it. What's he doing? He frantically asked as he followed her out. The Garden Stone pairs with the Wither Stone. One can rejuvenate, the other can decay. He could destroy us easily if we get in the way. You know so much, Felix thought out loud before they met with the others. Found something around the church. Definitely worth checking out, Chan called out while nodding his head to a musty gray church building. Everyone walked toward the church, but Ayan lagged behind. Each step felt heavier for her. Luckily, nobody appeared to notice. Except for one. Felix looked with sad eyes before helping Mino look around the side of the building. Somebody busted open the door and looked shocked from the immediate image. An arrangement of flowers appeared to be in pristine condition. Orange chrysanthemums and green carnations coated the walls and pews. The flowers felt oddly familiar to Chun, Mino, and Felix. Without a moment too soon, a large group of men wearing deer hoodies poured out of the back door, the Shadow Tribe. Hongjun and his men were here. While most of the group engaged in combat, Ayan and Felix snuck off to the back room. Entering the dark hallways, the silence encased them. Felix created a small ball of light to illuminate the tunnel. Ambient sounds of an occasional water drip filled the air awkwardly. A weird tension enveloped the two. "Where do you think this goes?" Felix asked nervously. Ayan watched his expression before looking ahead. "Where we need to be." "Ayan, this way." Hurried footsteps led the way down the tunnel. Eyes softened while he watched her walk ahead. She was unusually cold. What was going on? 5 long minutes later, the two found themselves in a dimly lit open area. Ayan took a few steps in, and large golden flames lit on their own to show the pathway to a chasm. A lone circular platform stood in the middle of emptiness. Designs in an emerald green coated the walkway leading up to the platform. 2 people, 1 man and 1 woman, stood near the platform. The man reacted to the flames igniting. "Oh? It's just you two. You guys just won't die, will you?" "Hongjun, this is where it ends!" Ayan yelled while stepping forward. Felix joined her confidently. The woman turned around and looked at Ayan with sad eyes. Ayan visibly reacted. "Yunjin!" Yunjin looked at Ayan confidently. "You have to get out of here. Hongjun's out of control." "Shut it!" Hongjun smacked Yunjin's arm and made her stumble. "I can easily dump you into this pit, so shut your mouth before I do it for you." "Leave her out of this!" Ayan shouted. "You should have died that night. How the hell did you survive that fall, princess? Same as Pretty Boy over there?" Hongjun scowled. He used his powers to create 2 walls of ordinary fire. Felix stepped forward and unleashed a wall of light to shield from the fire. He stood in a defensive stance, protecting Ayan. "If you know what's best for you, I suggest you lay your hands off the ladies!" Felix calmly threatened. Pillars of earth shot from the ground, forcing Felix and Ayan to separate with a dodge. "You have no room to talk while I have this bad boy right here!" Hongjun smirked while holding the emerald in the air. Ayan took advantage of Felix's defensive stance and attempted to create a small vine and moved it toward the hand that held the emerald. Unfortunately, Hongjun noticed and lit a small flame once the vine reached near his body. The flame did not travel far until a small burst of life hit the vine, letting it hit his hand. "What the?" Hongjun muttered while attempting to regain his balance. The jewel fell to the ground after the impact. Yunjin reached for the gold chain and tried running to Ayan. She was quickly stopped by Hongjun, pulling on the hood of her robe. Felix and Ayan ran up to the two quickly to stop the altercation. Felix ran in with a jumping kick to separate the two. Ayan tried putting Hongjun in an armbar to give Yunjin a chance to run, but she received a kick to the chest to break up the submission. "No, you don't!" Felix said through gritted teeth as he reached for the emerald. A strong gust of wind knocked everyone off of Hongjun. Felix and Ayan were knocked into one another, while Yunjin fell toward the edge of the walkway. Hongjun picked up the emerald and stood up. "You have no idea the hell I went through to find this thing! I am not letting it go!" The ground cracked beneath Hongjun's feet. He traced the cracks back to Yunjin. "Those jewels are coming back with me," she commanded. "They were being held for John Youngho. I will bring him back!" Hongjun yelled as he controlled the earth that was quaking underneath him. Large vines attempted to hold him back, but they were not strong enough. "You, princess, need to learn your fucking place!" A powerful beam of light hit Hongjun in the shoulder. "You will not talk to her that way!" Felix shouted. The light illuminating the golden flames glowed in a peculiar manner. I can talk to her however I damn well please. Young-O had her by his side for so long it drove me mad. She cannot be here when he rises from the dead. Do you even hear yourself? Ayan yelled. Do you know how much pain I endured while by his side? There's a reason he's dead! Felix caught glances at the scars that revealed themselves as Ayan's shirt sleeve slipped off her shoulder. His gaze drifted to the ground and noticed rubble moving toward her. Quickly thinking, he jumped toward Ayan and tackled her away from the collapsing rubble. While the rubble slowly began collapsing, Yunjin summoned a purple cloud to surround him. You're done, Hongjun, she whispered to herself as she pulled Hongjun with the cloud. You wish, Hongjun smirked before reversing the pull and throwing Yunjin into the chasm. Time slowed down as Ayan's eyes widened in shock. Using her strength to move from underneath Felix, she moved toward Hongjun and yelled, What have you done? A disheveled Hongjun stood toward the circular platform, holding the emerald above the chasm. He smiled triumphantly. What have I done? I won, princess! My wish will finally be granted! Ayan and Felix bolted for Hongjun in an attempt to stop him from dropping it in the emerald, although the ground underneath their feet crumbled at a faster rate. 2 steps before they reached the platform, Hongjun did the unthinkable. He dropped the emerald in. Now is the time! It's time for the revival of John Young-O! Hongjun maniacally laughed. The Shadow Tribe will thrive like the old times. No more hiding. No more feeling lost. No more abandonment. We can thrive again! We can... Pieces of the platform fell into the chasm. One of those pieces Hongjun stepped on crumbled underneath him, causing him to fall. Tremors continued in the open room. The golden flames flickered the longer the tremors went on. Felix looked in horror at the spot Hongjun stood. Realization setting in, he ran to Ayan. She stood over where he once was with a somber look. Ayan, we need to go! I don't think this place can hold up any longer, Felix frantically said. He tapped her shoulder. Nothing. He pulled gently on her shoulder. He just made the wish! We need to leave before it gets dangerous! Still nothing. He watched her walk to the center of the crumbled platform and turned to face him. Ayan, this isn't funny. Hongjun made the wish. This place is collapsing from it. We have to go! The wish hasn't been made. Felix stared in shock. What? No, the wish was made. I saw the garden stone get thrown in. The wish hasn't been made. And the garden stone hasn't been thrown in. Through the sounds of the tremors, Felix looked Ayan in the eyes. Her emerald eyes glistened of hopelessness. Emerald eyes. Healing herself. No. Ayan, don't tell me. I'm sorry, Felix. Ayan sadly smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. I wanted to tell you. I'm sorry I used you. Please forgive me? He stepped closer to her and reached out, but vines grew out of nowhere and blocked his path. You didn't use me. You helped me. You helped me and my friends get closer. We got closer. You can't do this. Felix. A roar from a tremor cut through the tension. I did, though. I saw you had the compass emerald and approached you. I had my own goals to accomplish, and I needed you to hold the emerald. I needed you to take me to the sacred locations. I needed you to take me to die. Tears flooded over his cheeks. You can't have felt that way now, right? We spent so much time together. Everything between us. It hurts that I have to. She smiled sadly, keeping her own tears at bay. The wither stone was thrown in first. That's why it's caving in. Anything thrown after it gets destroyed. And the only way to stop it is... Ian. Please. Large boulders began landing on the walkways, breaking the path to the platform. You have to go now, she said with a sad calmness, conjuring up a small bouquet of red lilies and forget-me-nots. She sent it to him. Don't forget me, okay? She smiled and tilted her head, long curly hair flowing in the chasm's breeze. Without another word uttered, he slowly backed away while still looking at her, taking in the bright smile he fell in love with. Once Felix ran through the tunnel, Ayan backed up so the edge of the broken platform was beneath her feet. The glow of the fire floated to her body and filled her with a pure power. Thank you, Felix, she softly called with a single tear rolling down her cheek. All of the memories from her adventure flooded through her mind as she looked around the area one last time. Taking a deep breath and closing her eyes, she let her body fall back into the chasm, like she had done many times before. Man, I'm gonna cry just reading my own work, dang. Maybe I should be sent to the Shadow Realm for making myself cry. Dang. Chapter 12. Salvation. Golden light shone brightly through the land, summer heat coating everything in its way. Various sounds of laughter echoed as children of all ages played outside. One man sat off to the side, watching the children. He smiled to himself sadly before leaning back and reading a book. Felix, can you use your light on the water, please? One of the children asked. Felix looked up from the book and gave a low-energy smile. Sure. Let me set this inside real quick. Okay! He walked back inside the daycare building. With all the kids outside, not many lights needed to be on. The dark room gave him slight comfort. His life felt empty, even with the smiling, laughing children. He looked at the book cover once more before setting it down completely. The Garden Stone. Walking back outside, he tended to the children, making them laugh, taking care of them, giving them all they need. It was his job. 9 long months had passed since his adventures with the Garden Stone, and the chasm in the underground city collapsed. While he carried on with his life, acting as if nothing was wrong, many saw through him. The children did their best to keep him occupied and happy. One of the children walked over to a group of potted flowers and began watering them. The flowers reminding him of her. The workday ended shortly after. Once the last set of parents picked up their children, Felix locked the door and walked home. He felt his phone vibrate, but ignored it. Taking the long way home, he felt natural to do. Walking by a flower shop, he saw several rose bouquets. They really are overrated. Feeling an overwhelming sadness, he continued to walk. Felix! Hearing a peppy voice snapped Felix out of his funk briefly. He turned around to see Chan and Mina walking up to him. Hey guys, he calmly greeted. Let's hang out today. Sounds like you need it. Chan smiled while draping an arm around his shoulder. You're not allowed to be mopey. It's my job, Mino added while nudging his arm. Felix let out a soft chuckle. Thanks, guys. I am feeling quite hungry. Let's eat? You got it. The three happily headed toward a newly installed barbecue joint by the bowling alley. Just a normal day for Felix and his close friends. The next morning at the dojo, Felix practiced his taekwondo on his own while his friends looked on solemnly. They grew used to his depressive state, but they were still worried. How long has he been this depressed? Jisung asked as he flopped on a nearby couch. 9 months, Chan answered as he watched Felix carefully. Congratulations, it's a depression, baby. Minho cracked the lackluster joke. Jisung giggled at normal volume while Chan stifled a laugh. Babies aside, we probably ought to do something for him. He's clearly still having trouble moving on, Chan said after the giggles died down. His words he just works, comes here, looks at flowers, and goes home. What more can we do? Jisung contemplated while staring at Felix. The three continued to watch Felix train. They can see the hesitation in his movements, the deep breaths, and even getting lost in thought. Sadness continued to fill the air, gears turning in their minds to find a solution to Felix's depressed behavior. Hey, Chan, don't you have that picture? Chan turned to Minho with an inquisitive look. He went through several different expressions before the thought clicked into place. Grabbing his phone, he searched through his photos from the past 9 months. I don't think I've ever shown him. I can print this in the office, he said while bolting to the office. Minho shook his head while Jisung laughed. They looked at one another with a knowing look. Can't believe he never showed him the picture, Jisung playfully scoffed. Well, things happened and it was too soon, Minho replied as a tired Felix walked over to him. What was too soon? Felix asked with innocent eyes. A picture of you and your girlfriend. Minho quickly covered Jisung's mouth and nervously laughed. Chan's got something for you. He'll be back in a minute. Picture? Felix questioned right before he can drill questions into Minho and Jisung. Chan returned with a printed photo. They spilled, didn't they? Chan softly smiled as he handed the photo to Felix. The first thing that caught his eyes were the somewhat matching varsity jackets and matching smiles. They looked happy. Happy. When did you take this? Felix quietly asked. The bowling alley, Chan answered. You two looked good together, so I wanted to take a picture. Felix stared at the picture for a long time. For a long while. Minho noticed the look in his eyes and spoke up. Why don't you go to those locations or whatever? Walk down memory lane. Yeah, and get some closure! Maybe, Jisung chimed in with a comforting smile. Looking at the three of them with somewhat hopeful eyes, he found the three looking at him encouragingly. Maybe that's a good idea. We can cover for you at the daycare. Don't worry about it. Go take care of yourself. Chan smiled and patted Felix's shoulder. The weight started to lift off of his shoulder. Several days later, Felix found himself on a journey. Passing by the jewelry store started the adventure. He traced his steps and found the subway housing the first sacred location. Recalling memories of her, he powered through the pathway. Halls looked more worn than before. The walk was easier, but harder at the same time. He arrived to the larger room and noticed the basin was broken. Pieces of it were scattered through the room, as if the basin combusted. Odd. After taking mental notes, he turned around and left the way he came. The next sacred location was in an abandoned mansion in the woods. Nobody went out that way, even back then. Feeling the early morning sun, he traveled his way through the woods. Memory helping a great deal. 9 months felt like an eternity without her. Arriving in the mansion, he immediately noticed the caution tape on the doors and windows. They looked old and worn. Must have been put up shortly after, he thought out loud as he bypassed the tape and went in. The place was dustier than last time. Instead of exploring the foyer, he immediately headed upstairs. He remembered the pathway step by step. Looking in the large sitting room, he saw a scene similar to the last place. The basin laid shattered in the room, golden trim covered in dust, but the cracks looked new. How long has this been broken? He he asked himself after inspecting the dust. Not too far from the mansion was the cave. On the way, he passed by a spring. Did she really heal him from the spring? He walked over to the waters and examined it. It appeared to be ordinary water. Taking a small stick and poking his finger with it, he stuck it in the water. After 5 full seconds of his finger submerged, nothing happened. How did I not notice before? Making his way to the cave, he noticed rubble in an organized manner. This was not Hongjun's doing. She must have come back here with help. Peeking inside the cave, he noticed the same thing again. A broken basin. Were they all broken? Why? As he walked back to town, he received a phone call from Yeji. What's up? You know those basin things we looked for months ago? The one at Skylight Tower? They're saying it broke sometime overnight, Yeji frantically said. That one's also broken? Felix muttered. The whole thing seems off. I feel traces, but nothing concrete. Thank you for telling me. He ended the call as he re-entered town. Every basin was broken. Were they all recent? Why were they broken? News of the Garden Stone never popped up again. The Shadow Tribe was also quiet. Did they officially disband after the disappearance of their leader? Felix lost himself in his thoughts, depression sinking in. He found himself at the worn-down flower shop. It used to be her home. He let the tears spill. His heart ached. In such a short amount of time, she left a hefty mark on his heart. She helped him, but he could not help her. As he was deep in thought, he felt a breeze towards his back. He looked toward where it came from and noticed something familiar. A female figure walking into town with short orange curly hair with a small green hairpin holding the left side of her hair behind her ear. She wore light wash jean shorts with a green tank top and white short sleeve jacket. A small trail of yellow tulips and sunflowers followed behind her with each step. Felix's feet moved on their own. She looked familiar, felt familiar. But why? Before he can get her attention, he tripped on a rock and bumped into her. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry! Felix frantically apologized, standing back up. He froze upon hearing a fit of laughter. She turned around and looked at him. Bright green eyes looked right at Felix, and his heart melted. He stared profusely, mind racing with crazy thoughts. But the basins were broken. That meant the garden stone was gone. How is she? She showed a bright smile and tilted her head before letting out a giggle and saying, Did you forget me already? And that's it. That is the end. I'm gonna scroll up to our Futu here. There we go. And that's it. That was the tale of the Garden Stone. Yay! I started writing this back in May, I think. I think it was about May I started writing it. And I didn't finish it till like a couple weeks ago. But there you go. There's the Garden Stone. Felix's story is done. And I was about halfway through when I noticed I accidentally wrote Xenoblade. Specifically Xenoblade 2. And if you know the story of Xenoblade 2, you can definitely see the nods to Xenoblade 2 for sure. And it was totally unintentional. And that's not even where the inspiration from the story came from. The inspiration kind of came from a couple different sources. The inspiration came from watching Harry Potter. I don't remember specifically what movie, but it came from Harry Potter. And you can kind of tell partly by the design and personality-ish. Ayan is based off of Aerith from Final Fantasy. So that's kind of the inspiration from her look and personality came from. So there's a little small facts there. And if you are familiar with flowers and the meaning of flowers, or you Google things as you hear them, you can kind of tell where stuff goes in a way. So yeah, this one was really fun. It was a fun one to write. It was nice to read it. It took a lot shorter amount of time than I originally thought it was going to take. But that is Tale of the Gardenstone. Now, all of Stray Kids have had a fanfiction written about them by me. What is next? I don't know. I'm getting ideas for stories kind of trickling in. Ideas are starting to pour in a little bit. But we'll find out. We probably won't read anything new until the next 100 mark or something. I don't know. Because our goals, let's remind everyone of our goals. Good job, Riley. Our goals, our next follow goal. Ooh, I did not mean to do that on my window. That was wonderful. I'm not used to an actual mouse. Our next follower goal is 550, and it's read some kind of fanfiction. That hasn't changed at all. Some kind can mean anything. Some kind could mean anything new that I write, maybe, question mark, or we can reread an older one that we've read on stream before, or we can read one I wrote as a teenager that we haven't read yet. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but we'll read some kind of fanfiction, because I enjoy these fanfiction reading streams. And like, they don't happen super duper often, but they're enjoyable, and I have a chance to show a different side of myself. So I do like it. And I also want to give a shout out to Blue and Gihan, because around the time, I think it was like before that, but kind of around the time and everything, I became a beta reader for Crown of the Alchemist, and hearing Blue talk about writing and everything, and reading her work, it helped inspire me to keep going with writing, and kind of also sparked this story. So shout out to Blue and Gihan for that as well. So thank you guys. And also sub goal as well. I did change it yesterday. I never made mention of it because I forgot. Sub goal has changed. If we hit 15 subs before the end of next month, I'm gonna give till like the end of November. If we hit 15 subs at the end of next month, we'll play some community games. Excuse me. We'll play some community games, play some games with viewers, and it doesn't happen very often, and it's a way for me to give back to the community. If you so choose to help support me, if you have the means to. So there's that. And I'm going to trust people to be nice and respectful. If people are not respectful, if we get to do community games, if people aren't respectful, they are not happening again. So it's going to be like a once in a lifetime type deal. So we better be nice about it. But yep, that was Tale of the Gardenstone. It was a fun one to write, even though I broke Felix's heart. I'm sorry, Felix. I'm sorry, Felix. Anyway, schedule for the week. Tomorrow and Friday will start at 1 p.m. Central Time, 1 hour later. Tomorrow is some kind of Mario Party. I might lean towards 1 or 2. I don't really feel like busting out a GameCube one yet. We might do that next week. Who knows? Or next week we might do some spooky games. I don't know. The only spooky games I have are Until Dawn and The Quarry. I don't know, those games are fun anyway, so. Yeah, tomorrow's Mario Party. Friday is TTYD. We begin chapter 4. We just finished chapter 3. We became world champion and we got our crystal star. So we will do chapter 4 on Friday and then wrap around back to Monday. Monday will be Xenoblade. More progress on chapter 13. So I am excited. So now, let's see who is... Blue doesn't go live today, Riley.
It's gonna be on. Max is live.
Yeah, Max is live. Let's go raid Max. Let's see, what should be our raid message? I mean, I just read a story. I read The Garden Stone. It's a story by me. What should the raid message be? You want raid message, please? Riley wants raid message, please, so we'll go with the tried and true raid message, please. Raid message, please. If you are subbed to me, you can use my emotes. If you are not subbed, you can use whatever emotes you want. I'm not picky. That'll be our tried and true. We're gonna go raid Master Max 165. Oops. So, yeah. And again, there's nothing concrete about like the next fanfiction reading. Nothing concrete on that. We gotta hit a follower goal first. And those just kind of passively happen. So, but I often talk about stuff. So, yeah, I am excited. So yeah. Yep, tomorrow is Mario Party, Friday's TTYD. Wrap around Monday, we got Xenoblade X. We're almost done with Xenoblade X. I do have a game lined up after Xenoblade X. It's an RPG. Always is an RPG on Mondays. And I did make mention of this yesterday. After TTYD, if I do end up streaming Pokemon Legends ZA, it will be after TTYD. And that's if I decide to stream it. And it's leaning towards yes, not 100% sure yet. So, yeah. So we're gonna go raid Max. Thank you for coming in and listening to my story. And sometimes I understand, you know, whatever, I'm not playing a game, so it's like, oh, she's boring. No, I just want to read my stuff and share my work with people. I think that's the big thing. I want to share another part of myself. So, and that's what we did. And also, the last 2 stories we read, including this one, never mentioned fish boxers, and I just forget. I get so into the story. I think it's just the last 2 stories I've written were very serious. Had very serious undertones to them, and I just didn't feel it right to mention fish boxers. But I do really need to pee because I drank a lot. That's just the nature of fanfiction streams. But that'll be it for today. Mondays are Xenoblade Chronicles X, Tuesdays and Thursdays are Mario Party, and Wednesdays and Fridays are Paper Mario 1000 Year Door. So thank you everyone for coming out and hanging out, and we will see you next time.